two players, if they stand up, they can alleviate their team to the next level.
Okay, well, let's see if they can elevate one another to that next level. As you say, take a look at our maps. Best of 3 series again. The second one that, unfortunately for VP, they're going to have to go through today. Psychological and all that we just talked about. So let's go for that pick ban. BO3 7 map pool, you know, 4 will go away. We're left with 3 at the end. And those will be the 3 maps. The Fierce Tricolore, as some would say, the fierce 3 colors that'll come out at the end. It's Consulate, Oregon, and Cafe Dostoyevsky. All right, overall, very quickly, any favorite side, Ace?
For me, I think I like BDS for this win, but I think they will possibly need to win in 2. If it goes to the decider, I think that maybe favours Virtus.Pro, and I think BDS can do it, but they need to seal it up quickly.
Fair enough. Stein?
I think the same thing. Cafe should be Virtus.Pro. Their map, I was going to think maybe they bring Coast on, but BD is actually really good at that, so could they bend that one out? I don't know, 50-50. I think VP have an opportunity to take it, but they need to get that first map in for sure.
All right, that said, I guess we are ready to go for a game. First of all, what do people think about this match? Our social media predictions are ready, so let's see if we have been able to count all those votes. The polls are closed, and they say, wow, 67% for BDS, 33% for Virtus.Pro. I haven't checked what Caliber Jacob is voting for this one, so usually going...
We can guess now.
We can guess for this one, but I don't need to guess which teams you guys voted for. So let's put everybody on the screen and hold everybody accountable for this one. Usually, what is it, Des and Caliber or Jacob are against one another in the way that they pick things. So I'm kind of excited to see what everybody's predictions are once we put that up. And there it is. Hello. Virtus.Pro, BDS. I mean,
Des disappeared.
He's fallen into a short hole. That's
so.
He's had enough of predictions.
Yeah, he's been banned from predictions.
There's just gonna be a photo of him doing this. This is like this.
Yeah.
He's having too big an impact on the outcomes by predicting. He's too consistently wrong. So, you know, they've had to nerf him.
Well, I mean, I sort of realized that if I just vote what Hap does, and I guess at this point what Ace does as well, I might be able to keep up. At this point, nobody can judge me because I am neither a caster nor an analyst, so I can just do whatever I want. That's the advantage of being host, I guess.
You're just, you know, here to give your opinion and then be like... It doesn't. My opinion basically doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's basically what you say.
It doesn't matter, but it's the opinion that matters most in the end. Gio, may you please explain to us why you picked Virtus.Pro? Aha! I threw you into this one, didn't I? Huh? It's almost like it was all prepared and premeditated. Who would have thought? All right, our game is ready, so let's throw it over to our caster team, BDS versus Virtus.Pro. Let's see who can move on to the grand final to face off against G2 and who will unfortunately drop out of the running. Casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Milos, as we head over to the first map of this lower bracket final. Now, obviously, it is everything to play for, and I guess we're going to really test the mantra of do blondes have more fun, because we're going to, I think, your favorite map, the most fun that it is, Consulate. Gio, I believe, I'm being told you're muted. You've only gone and done it. In VMix, in the second level of technology, because the problem
I've refreshed it.
they never end. You just have to put up with me.
Alright, apparently it's good. Apparently
we've got
it's
Gio
good.
now.
It's
She's
working.
in. She's piped in. Maybe that's where Des went.
I was confused because I was being told I'm muted, and I definitely was not. So
yeah, it means
technology.
all of the things that you said in the previous round about maps, about operators, about. Sure, it doesn't mean anything. No one heard your sass, your comments towards poor Milos.
Yeah, well, that's all right. People can decide for themselves where the level of sass was.
Hey, let's double down on my first question to ask you then. We're getting Consulate. You love Consulate.
I do.
You're a big fan.
This is like Ace and I are really siblings of kin in this matter. Consulate is the best map. It's so good. It's so exciting. There's always so much fun that happens. It's sort of in that nice area between, like the coastline and the clubhouses where it's not two-way one or the other. And it's also a really uniquely shaped map as well. I think the sights are really fun. All in all, I'm stoked to be going back.
Stokes?
Oh
no, you're not Stokes. Stokes is Stokes. Did you get much of a chance, because obviously the map pool changed, bye Thatcher, the map pool changed not too long ago and Bank was removed. Did you get much of a chance to cast it before it went?
No, I don't think I've ever casted Bank, which I was kind of glad about because I'm about to say something really blasphemous here, but I don't like Bank.
Okay, no, I mean, it depends on the region you say that in. You say that in Latin America, you're gone. Because my point is, for me, Consular, we need to talk about that Amaru ban in a second, and we will. Consular is what Bank is to LATAM for EU. It is such a good map. It plays so aggressive. It leads in really, really well. Okay, now I'm going to talk about that Amaru ban. Oh, Des is screaming, Amaru's banned. Gone. Get out of there. Ace is happy too. It was a big point. Did you see how much it was used yesterday by BDS, by the control that they were able to offer here? It is such a target ban against that team.
I mean, I can tell you for a fact I did see because
you were there.
Casted. I casted it. Yeah, we saw that be used particularly effectively yesterday against Rogue, especially on those, particularly on those top floor attacks, which is where they would wait until very, very late, say 30 seconds left of the round, send Amaru up. Suddenly you've got everybody in CEO. Everyone's already pre-positioned so that they can take the fights they need to. Such a heavy defense was coming out from Rogue onto the yellow stairs. They completely, on the attack went dealing with that. And then suddenly all of the defenders had to rotate and try and deal with it. But no, you've already got the plant down by that point. Post-plant situation, all these fights happening. It was wild. And Virtus.Pro decided they just don't want to deal with it.
Honestly, it is the right move. It was one of the things that was called out. Obviously, it was, you went into a bit of predictions last time around yesterday. All of us did of, hey, you expect Rogue to do a little bit better. They didn't. Moral of the story. But Amaru was a big problem for them when they were here, obviously facing the beast of BDS onto Consular. It was something that was talked about of, if you want to stumble a passion-driven team, pull out their slightly creative operator. To be honest, said at the time, it's not going to stumble them too much, but anything, any stick through a wheel, regardless of how flimsy it may be, is still something that slows the bike. And, well, unfortunately, the bike rode right through Rogue yesterday. Here, Virtus.Pro, they're not messing around. They're not going to play the Amaru game.
No, I really like actually this setup that BDS are going for with the defense. They've already opened up the default plant spot in CEO, so that really suggests they're going to be wanting to play the vertical game. And the fact that they've got Vigil on the really deep roam anyway, and you also have Renshiro who's on mute, and he's going to be able to have the C4 in hand, which can also be played from below. It suggests that that's exactly what it is they're going to be going for, preparing for. Ooh, that's very close. And there we go, that's going to be, well, not even a death, just, there we go, there's the death. Shockwave taken straight off the board, and that's a very early loss for Virtus.Pro.
Renshiro, if you didn't see him yesterday, he, well, gave a bit of a masterclass across all of the games. He showed up so big, and for an operator, well, historically, a player who plays operators that are your flank holds, your watches, he defined what Blackbeard could be back when it was a big part of the meta. He just popped off. He got electric, he got executing, and he was always in the faces and kind of said, I'm one of these early door year one players. This is the caliber that I can bring behind my play. Look at the intense immediate pressure here.
Well, I was going to say, it's not even just that. It's the fact that Zafira is so key on this site to be able to take meeting, which you really can't afford to not have, and now that's not there. So much more pressure has to be applied by the rest of the team to be getting in through other means. You can't open up the table from below. You can't necessarily have someone present on the balcony. So Rafale, to be removed, is going to take so much more effort from Virtus.Pro.
Now then, he's dug in the corner that is generally held a Lems on a deep roam all the way beneath. One of the things about this map that I always love to see and love to talk about, and I guess with Amaru off the board you won't see as much, is the hatch synergy. It's so quick to rainfall down this map, get from top to bottom, and it can really lock down a roam. You usually see Nomad banned. It's quite a consistent one to be off instead of where the Amaru is, but obviously VP knew what they wanted to do, and it was to try and target the particular play that BDS like to bring here. Throw them off their game, take them by surprise. You talk about talisman players and passion teams. BDS live and breathe at that mentality. You throw anything slightly off the beaten track and things could go wrong. A nice idea with that grenade, and the Capital Flame is going to do a little bit more, but we've pushed him out, shepherded him away, and the room is now a little bit yours, but uh-oh, who's that beneath? It's Renshiro.
Yeah, he still does have that C4 in hand, but he does have to be aware that he is going to be watched potentially. He's got eyes on the balcony for now, and they know that Rusk, well, I was going to say low health. He has no health right now, but Virtus.Pro is seeing the opportunity to move on in. Shaiko didn't know where he was looking, but Rafal absolutely does, and he can just clean up 2 of those kills, in fact. Renshiro does go down, but there's just 1 remaining player on the side of Virtus.Pro. 5 seconds remaining, but it's still 5 seconds too much. BDS finishes things off, and I said Rafal was going to be the problem that Virtus.Pro would have to deal with in that round, and it turned out he really was the thorn in their side in the form of 3 nice kills.
Well, Virtus.Pro was stumbled with some of the plays that they suffered in their game just earlier today. G2 were very quick to act, throwing themselves out of windows with the intel they may or may not have had. Didn't matter. Uno was looking for blood, and he kept on finding it. And unfortunately, when you're a team like VP that can be really, really good at that pushed against the wall adaptation and rotation, if you're against a team that is also very good at that playstyle and also very good at just kind of getting into the mess and having the wrestle and seeing who comes out less scathed, well, things like that happen. It becomes very scrappy in the hands of Virtus.Pro, and it takes them to have these high expectation, high explosion rounds that sometimes only really fall into the hands and the guns of Pasha, a player who throughout this entire season and series has been very, very good. It's just unfortunately the kind of burning twice as bright has only been hit or miss with players like Amision, Rask, Shockwave, and WTG.
I'm wondering if BDS were trying to bait Virtus.Pro into thinking this was going to be a basement defense, because they did have the Bandit originally on their lineup before switching over to Echo as the 6th pick. Now, obviously, they're going to be coming up to lobby, which we spoke about it a bit yesterday. This has become a much more popular site, both in EU and in NA, and even APAC, in fact, just across the board. It has found itself more frequently in the preferences of a lot of these teams. Now, having the Echo is something that they did have last time, but of course the Yokai drones are going to be incredibly useful. We said yesterday that Echo has a pretty high ban rate, especially given the fact that he was permabanned for a while, and now he's fallen into a lot of the optional bans for these teams. But making his way through the ban phase this time means that these teams should get a lot of value out of him.
An admin take, the old familiar, especially in the world of Russia, where they kind of defined how this would be put together. Obviously, Empire were the first to, well, construct that empire, but it bled through the rest of the scene and the world. They're looking for anybody that might be beneath and looking for anybody that might be close, but it's opening your angles, rotations. If I'm going to talk about how well this map can work in the hands of defenders, attackers obviously have plenty of sightlines and tricks they can utilize through the big swathes of soft floor. Now then, well, this is step 1 of a multi-step process, and Bride, a player we talked about before who was unbelievable at the start of the season, started to slow during the mid and end, and so far hasn't kind of kicked himself back into gear across these series. It's taken some outstanding plays from the rest, obviously notably Renshiro, but you know, Shaiko had some rounds and Rafal has already opened up big today. I guess it's this moment of, is he going to be able to hit the skill and caliber he had when he first joined this roster?
That's definitely a big question, especially as some of the other players here on BDS, namely Elems and Shaiko, and even, well, Renshiro, as you say, have shown up so much in this competition so far that Bride really needs to stand up tall to be matching their heights right now. Still, players on BDS are upstairs and require clearing out, even though over half the round has gone by now. And even though you bring a Nomad to be able to control the rotations, we did see Shaiko for a very long time still sat at the top of the yellow stairs. That's something that Virtus.Pro are going to have to be very aware of. Amision just preparing this nade right now to try and clear out the bottom of Spiral, but Bride is far away enough that he can avoid it.
Holding on deep and awaiting the potential of a collapse back round. They have an idea of where things want to go and why they want to go there, but it's just a matter of locking down and getting some control here. The drones are heavy and hefty, something that we've seen pretty consistently from all these teams. Obviously, when you're at the top caliber of any region, you expect to see a lot of hot droning, a lot of communication. It was the bread and butter for a lot of VP's plays. And here, with an Echo drone looming and less than 30 seconds, whatever VP do, it's gotta be watertight. They dig round, throw a grenade, but it doesn't catch the man on the stairs, and that's a big potential loss. The patience of an Echo, who I don't think connects properly, has to bring the other drone round, but there is actually the catch and the cover. 3Day from the savior of not being blown up is able to save the diffuser and stop it going down. They're going for a second attempt here. Alems is still on the board with an Echo. I'm assuming he's watching, but it doesn't seem like he is. Pasha is going to take a triple as the rotation comes around the back. It's all on the pressure on this back spiral stairs. A 2 versus 1 post plant. Alems had everything within his grasp, and a little lip on the edge of a desk has separated him from immediate glory. Drops down right into the maw of Virtus.Pro. And Virtus.Pro take a round.
Oh, the coordination and teamwork exhibited there by Virtus.Pro was just fantastic. They knew a mission was in trouble, and of course it looked like maybe he wasn't going to be. We didn't know if the Yoko drone connected at first. It did in the end. But as soon as that happened, 2 of them dropped down together. They collapsed into the site. The members of BDS weren't directly on the site. They were surrounding it, and that meant that they could gradually pick them off. We've seen how passionate, especially earlier today. I'm talking their game against G2, right? He really showed up. So he knew he had the confidence and the ability to be the one to sort of go on that slight roam where he could go and seek out these players from BDS who maybe weren't quite expecting the direction from which he was headed. I'm sorry, I'm just excited.
It's all right. It was a very exciting round. And for those who are wondering why we're back to us, there's just a very quick technical rehost. I'm sure. Now, I haven't got Twitch chat open. I'm sure people may have noticed it was 60 FOV. Which isn't what we want. We want to get
we just want to change it.
Yeah, we don't want to feel like it feels like you're blinkered. I guess, it's PC. We want to see all of the FOV possible. We'll be back in the game momentarily. It's one of those things, but
this is a really good time actually to just remind people that if you don't play on the highest FOV that you can, just go change that.
Yeah, I mean, don't you want to see everything possible? Don't you want to see all of the beautiful surroundings? We're back in the game now. We didn't need to do a rehost. It was on the production side, which is good. It's nice. I'm going to touch the wood and pray to the technology lords. I think obviously this was a very last minute due to the pandemic. It's gone very well so far. I'm just gonna say, like, for this being a sudden online broadcast, you got to give credit to all the tech and all the players that have obviously been able to get this running.
I mean, you obviously went around in the regular season, but production has just been so smooth. But as Shaiko has been in his play, and if he can actually catch one of these players out, that is Rusk on the admin window. But he's not going to decide to retreat instead, just take position in yellow stairs instead.
Holding on the top and juggling ADS is the dance that you do on the top of yellow stairs. It is as old as time, and, well, Renshiro is tailing his tail as old as time. Getting the opener. That's 2 openers across the 3 rounds now for Renshiro. Again, a player who throughout the season, and probably the season before, was quite quiet. Didn't have to be explosive. You're playing alongside some of the best explosive players in the world, especially when Shaiko is on your team. Here, though, this is almost like when we saw Alems step up for BDS. The first time Alems was really there on the major stage for this team, he was shouting, he was caroling and controlling a roster that really needed that bit of fire and fuel and was able to take big rounds and motions by himself. It's great to see Renshiro, another historic player, another well-storied player, be able to come in, step up, and step in to this match against VP.
I mean, when you talk about the story, there's just so much on both sides, given the Virtus.Pro have pretty much been a full squad for a long time. Karma was obviously switched out for a mission a little while ago, but other than that, the entire core of the roster is the same. So these are definitely players and teams with a lot of that story. 1-1 obviously is the scoreline right now, and they've still got a full series to go before they figure out who's going to be facing G2 in the grand final tomorrow. Patch is going to be sending in those frag grenades to start things off as he tries to get this meeting control and just move in through the top floor.
Now, it becomes a little bit of a game of waiting. We saw the pressure come to a very heavy boil in the previous round because time came down to the wire and they hadn't got BDS out from the spiral stairs. Yet again, BDS is playing just off-site, just out of arm's length. They try and grenade and smoke to cover the rotation, but he's not there. Instead, Shaiko is drifting around on the yellow stairs and seems unprepared as they flood straight into the site and take control of Piano. There goes the body inside the bathroom now as they look towards Antechamber and see it is completely cleared. They have a straight run, but Echo has eyes on 2, and this could be a big moment. There's still bodies underneath, and Renshiro is still above. Takes care of WTG and looks towards the drop. They're covering a rotation. Put in a post plant, and an Echo drone isn't going to do much other than give its game away. 40 seconds. They find their way into Piano and find their way through a mission in the middle. Now it's just looking towards the diffuser. It is all down to Ross. Catches yet again another body, and there's a second. A freebie handed into the corner of Piano. BDS, a player who we shout about to the heavens, has to look down to hell and finds it. There is one more. There goes Rask. And there is the second round for BDS.
That took me so much by surprise. I was fully expecting Rask to be able to clutch that one out and keep things in Virtus.Pro's favor, but no, instead, BDS was ready. He knew he was going to be prone on the ground, and we spoke about how BDS put up so much throughout stage 1, really needed to do so here so that he could match the rest of his team who have been excelling so far in this competition. And that round just proved he can still do it. He's got the game sense. He's got the skill. He was ready, and he secured that round for BDS when it looked so much like it was in Virtus.Pro's hands.
Well, that's 2 rounds to have in a row, isn't it?
Oh,
That's
who thought in the first 3 rounds this is what would have happened? This is wild.
Honestly, this is everything I wanted from this game. I know that obviously we've all put our predictions down and we've gone it's BDS or it's Virtus.Pro. It's one of the ways as we've got to, but at the same time, it's flip a coin.
I found this one the hardest one to call.
Oh yeah. Like, Virtus.Pro throughout this entire series and in this entire major have stepped up a lot. Here, obviously, BDS haven't had the start that we expected as the top 2 teams neither did. These first 3 rounds, this is full pelt, full sprint, full aggression, full everything. Little mistakes, sure. Both teams seem to be caught out at little moments, and both teams can't quite capitalize upon each other. But when you're playing at this pace and this intensity, that's what happens. That is a byproduct of this. It in no way cuts down on how exemplary this start has been.
I'm definitely intrigued by the fact that BDS haven't decided to go down into the basement. They haven't visited it at all so far, returning instead to the top floor, which they did win back on round 1. Shaiko's not going to be able to catch anything out on that early spawn peak, but it is going to keep Virtus.Pro on their toes as they know they've got to watch out for that window.
Yet again, a game of holding. Shaiko. I mean, if we're going to talk the praises of a lot of the players, and I'm going to talk about people who've made little mistakes, so far, unfortunately, you've made a couple. We saw you caught out. Granted, it was a quick and aggressive rotation, but, well, you should have expected that from just the audio. There's a jump out, and there's no retribution. Okay, unless that counts. Shockwave caught Pasha there on a bit of a crossfire just after the man had died. It becomes a bit of an unfortunate situation, and I'm sure Shaiko and Comms is like, that's my kill. I'm claiming that. It's my kill. I'm on 1 kill. It is not 4-0.
I'm just feeling like so far in this competition, Virtus.Pro getting a team kill is almost like a rite of passage, because we had WTG getting a mission yesterday, and now having Shockwave getting Pasha. The only one who's not been involved is Rusk, so they've got to get into the grand final, so you have the opportunity to have a Rusk team kill.
You have to sacrifice.
You've got to do it now.
I think it was, I can't remember which team it was in the CCS Female League, but CCS Women's, they would sacrifice a player before the game. I think it was Lost Alice's team.
Like to the gods.
I believe so. And it was very successful, so maybe it's just that kind of mentality.
Oh.
Maybe they've taken the lesson there. 2 people swing in and try and get control of the yellow stairs. Renshiro is just below, poppers some bullets, peppers some corners of walls, and gives his location away. But with a minute 10, he can kind of play a little bit of chase. He's underneath the site. They can't get in and can't get comfortable as long as he's causing problems beneath. With the C4 too, you can see the Maestro, you can see the Echo. You don't need to see the information gain because you know it's there. It's a presence, it's a consistent, and that is a nightmare on this map with C4s.
Really quick and easy, though, for WTG to just remove those ADSs. It means that's just extra utility that Virtus.Pro don't have to worry about. And he will be able to send in some of his utility without any kind of hindrance. But they also have to bear in mind there's just about 30 seconds remaining of this round, and Virtus.Pro are going to have to hurry up. Just stunning down the staircase to prevent Renshiro from running on up, because they do know he's there, as he hasn't been dealt with. Virtus.Pro have to go in and try and make this plant. Smoke's going to narrowly avoid them. Rask opens up with a kill, but they still got to go for it.
Now then, with a bit more utility burn and a little bit of ground, well, under their favor, but barely enough for them to start to scratch this surface comfortably. They're trying to hold the corner angle, and they are able to get the rotation back up round from Renshiro. With the diffuser stuck yet again, Mission is a man on a mission, and he finds a kill in amongst it too. Now it's yet again another 1 versus 1, but the legs give the game away. Oh no!
Bride and Post Plants. Name a more iconic duo. That's what I'm starting to feel like after these 4 rounds. This is his job now.
Yeah, this is what you do.
That's just it. That's his role.
I have to give credit here to Mission, as I very quickly said, man on a mission. I am holding this diffuser down. Pros, I've heard they don't fake.
I mean, look, Mission had such great stats. I think he was only behind Pengu in the regular season for the number of plants made, with 13. Pengu was on something like 15, 14. I think it was 15. Mission had 13. He is definitely someone who knows how to navigate those situations, get the diffuser down. The problem has been that Virtus.Pro have had to work on throughout the regular season, ensuring that the post plant is clean. And I think one of the big problems that they did have in that last round was that their timing throughout the mid-round was not necessarily used the most efficiently from the perspective of clearing out those players of BDS who would be a problem to you later on. Obviously, they decided to leave Renshiro. They kept tabs on him, knowing he was still at the bottom of yellow stairs, and playing it patiently did mean that they could get rid of him later on. But there were still other players of BDS elsewhere on the map who could just move in once the diffuser had been planted. And if you lose those gunfights, it does leave it so vulnerable to be lost. They had to plant the diffuser because there was so little time left. And Virtus.Pro are usually a team who are very good at planting very early. So I think if they're just a bit more snappy in being able to deal with BDS and clearing out those relevant players, they won't find themselves in these situations so much where they are getting the post plant taken away from them.
Shockwave versus Shaiko. Flip a coin, and I think that's probably who's going to get the kill first at this point between the pair of them. It seems like both teams are playing these slightly to the walls games. Obviously, it's been 3 post plants now in this situation, and, well, it's coming down to the wire every single time. The trades are coming out in what seems like unexpected positions, but these are 2 players of very high caliber that have unfortunately been the consistent ones caught out. At the beginning, obviously, we've seen Shaiko taking a fair few fights and not quite winning them. Shockwave has done it a little bit more quietly on the attack, but otherwise, again, it's just, this is the pace that's being put forward. One of the things that I really like about how BDS are pushing and taking things is they know where people are roughly. We see it most on lobby stairs, where they'll throw a grenade down, still smoke the front of it, and then push up past it or push up around it, and then just try and ignore it. It's like a 2-part process. Is obviously they've still got guns there. They just want to clear the way for their body to get past and actually start playing the objective, because Mission, he is playing that objective. Don't you dare try to stop him. But at the same time, BDS, I've talked about their passion, talked about their fire and their skill. They're so good at rotating background, so good at these frantic, terrifying moments that a lot of other teams would start to collapse on. There's a pre-fire, there's a danger. If we're going to see legs, well, there's one gone, and Mission takes care of Bride, the post-plant magician that he is.
That was very calculated. It really wasn't difficult for Virtus.Pro to deal with that. Immediately, as soon as Pasha got on the rappel, he sent in the drone. Bride should have heard him opening up the window, and I think he did because he got off the C4 at the time. Ooh, ooh, this could be close. He got off the C4 at the time. Pasha sends in his drone. He knows where he is. Emission's on the other side of the bathroom. He can just shoot through and get rid of him. When you are the attackers and you want to be moving into piano and antechamber to open up the floor and apply pressure down below, that's a really big and important kill to get, is that player who's in bathroom. And if it's that easy to get it, then that definitely works in your favor.
Big opener now as they try and drone in. They have the man advantage, and they have 40 seconds. Pipe's currently clear. How aware of that? I guess we'll find out. The shield is dropped, but look at Alems. On the rotation there, on the spiral, he's trying to find Pasha, but a bit of a destruction to try and, I'm assuming, get rid of an air jab that was playing on the top of the stairs. Waits, baits, but Pasha, he's not waiting around for anybody. There's one falling to Shockwave, who gets his first body as, well, Striker unfortunately falls as the only one without a kill. Rask with one more. I said, look at Alems, and now it's the only person we can look at for the hands of BDS. An absolutely clinical shutdown of the hold that was put forward here, and for the first time we are seeing a team in any control of this game, and unfortunately BDS were completely out of it.
I was actually amazed that Alems missed Shockwave on the stairs when he ran into piano. He was so close to being able to see him, and I guess just didn't. Obviously desperately trying to look in at the default plant spots, you know, into the garage when he was looking in through the floor. Just couldn't see anything. Obviously something that BDS has been able to do very well is be able to deal with the post plant and get the disable. Weren't able to do it there, but you said it, Fluke. It was very clinical. It was very well coordinated. And even though, once again, the plant was quite late in the round compared to what Virtus.Pro usually do, it felt a lot more calculated and patient and well-timed.
That was it. Everything was balanced. And I think for the first time, a team actually had a grasp on the map. Okay, there's been some heavy rounds back and forth, but I would say it's fair to give the point that none of the teams were really in control of how things were cooking. Everybody was surprised that Emission was sticking the plants, just as everybody was surprised that it was quickly retaken in these frantic, chaotic moments as well. This has been a game of play the objective amongst the chaos, and for the first time, Virtus.Pro, out of both these teams, said, wait a second, let's take a step back. We've got the opener. They got it quite early, which might have been able to play into the fact that they could have locked it down. They got it on a very big player that is core to the team's dynamic, core to the hold, and obviously core to the amount of bodies that have been put on the floor so far. Now they have a little bit of a breather as we quickly just fix the frame rate, I believe, is the one that's getting the second tweak.
What I am really enjoying about this matchup so far is the fact that both of these teams are ones which, relatively compared to other teams in Europe, are known for being very aggressive, very fast-paced. Yeah. Obviously, every team at this level has to play to a certain strategical level, but we're seeing more of that, and where that makes a difference in this matchup because they both have such similar natural levels of aggression. When they play against a slower, more methodical team, that's where you start to, you really see, okay, they shoot, okay, they shoot, okay, they shoot, because they kind of have that rebuttal. But when it's against another team that has that similar play style, they have to really be a lot more clinical and be a lot more careful about the way that they do go about the strategical elements. And I'm really enjoying it because it's so nice to see the coordination, which there have been times throughout the season where we've worried these teams have lacked.
Back in yet again, and we've lost a minute, unfortunately, of this round, but fingers crossed this is us good now for the rest of a series where I don't want to miss a single screen.
Look at Alems.
Just can't stop looking at Alems.
Okay.
No, he is playing Oryx. We haven't seen...
he's ready for you. Look at him.
Yeah, Oryx with the... I know Ace talked about this on the last map, is we haven't really seen the proximity too much. There's another one. There's a grip on a map that is, as I said, kind of frantic. And I guess as a response to how hot, heavy, and wild this map has been, Renshiro, well, Alibi's rumbled, so she's going to dip out of there and find a bit of safety beneath. I'm curious to see if this Oryx play pops off, because I really want one to work.
Well, Consulate is one of those maps that you would really expect it to work, just because of the layout of the map, the fact it's long and thin, and you can run to the other side of the map and use the hatches in somewhere like admin, when everyone else is on the west side of the map, as they kind of are now, and you can almost go unnoticed, and it's harder to roam clear that way, of course. WTG will be the first one taken down as Shaiko secures that kill, and the Capitão has been really important here for Virtus.Pro so far. They've been lighting up these rounds and been using those Infernos very much to their favor, so losing him is definitely going to be felt.
Well, with Vertical under their control, you think, okay, they have some solidity. Obviously, the Oryx, we weren't sure if it was a 6th pick or not, so we're just going to have to try and assume. I'm going to say it was, because that's a surprise play. Like, if you're going to bring Oryx for the first time, especially, it's going to be a surprise. And
You don't really want to broadcast it.
no, exactly, and, well, apparently you don't want to broadcast how Shaiko's game is going so far. That's another death off the board before he can start to really get himself into a round. There's a great smoke canister, a great play. This is the surprise. This is the moment. There's the pop-up, and there's the man caught. There is a trade, though, at least from the hands of Renshiro above. They've got to pick the diffuser up. They're trying to head through Anti-Chamber to get it to the opposite side and get it away from the peering eyes of Renshiro. But now it's a 2 versus 1, and now it's another round.
That was incredibly surprising. I mean, for me as well, I expected him to go all the way east and come in through, you know, Visa kind of area, I guess. He just wanted to pop up straight onto, I think what he expected was them to make the plant there. He wanted to pop up onto the site and be able to gun them down while the plant was being made. He didn't expect a mission to just be sat in the corner like that, not right away making the plant and just watching where he was going to pop up from. So that really took Alems by surprise, but obviously time ran out so much, they waited until very much the last second. Shockwave had to try and make the plant himself, and when you've still got 2 members of BDS, you don't have the option to get off the diffuser and try and take that shot yourself because you're on 0-0-0. So it obviously didn't work out for Virtus.Pro in the end anyway. And so that does mean 4-2 at the half. I would have liked to have seen a 3-3, I think, especially on this map. And the fact that Virtus.Pro have... Some of the great things we saw come out from them so far have been really good. But I'm definitely intrigued by how their defense is going to go.
I think that's always the thing here on this map, is when you're looking at what this map can offer and what it can reward, it's one of those play spaces that gives aggression. Okay, I'm saying this out loud. Villa went 10 attacking rounds in a row. Let's say, not about that right now. We're looking at how these two teams have hit head so far. It's been entirely within the building. It's been generally claustrophobic. Sure, there was one attempt at a jump out that it's like you know the poorly drawn star meme where it's like you tried. Because they got a team kill. That's what Shaiko was awarded with when he did that jump out there. Because he did get a team kill. Now they're going to look for something aggression on the spawn here. And if I'm going to quote Villa, I'm going to quote the fact that the very first round, the very first play from Virtus.Pro was a run out in the first 5 seconds against Uno.
Well, the first 5 seconds are up, so I'm already disappointed. But I think BDS have come very prepared, given the fact they've brought Ashe and Zofia, who will be able to deal with things like the Vulcan shields, which of course they're expecting. It's Virtus.Pro. But then you've also got Twitch as well, and she will, very similarly to what we saw yesterday, Rogue did the same thing, really be in charge of dealing with the Evil Eyes. If she can shoot those down and maybe get a mute jammer or 2 as well, what's great about that is it means you don't have to rely on the Ashe and Zofia to do those 2. Now, that first shotgun did get taken down. I'm assuming Alems has another one. But even so, getting shot, not great. Yeah, okay, it's still got one more in pocket.
A drone in pocket. Who's upset? Is it Easy that we order around?
We do have Easy today.
Okay, so we can shout Easy do this and hopefully he'll do it. But he's too cool. He's too cool and Benelux to do what we need him to do. Great observing so far, though, as we look at this. And this is a great painted picture of one of my favorite things about this map. And one of the reasons that if I'm looking at information ops, Pulse is so good on this map because you can get a full push from just looking towards one angle. It's the only map in the game where you can pull out all the way on the camera and get the map inside the frame. It is so tall and yet slender, this death rectangle. And it's great to kind of have that up-down information now. Brede.
Well,
yes?
I was just going to say the death rectangle. It could end up being the death rectangle for BDS as they're still struggling to find their way in. They haven't been able to bring anyone from Virtus.Pro down just yet. And you have a Maestro and a Smoke perfectly positioned to be able to prevent them as they start to make that push.
Well, the smoke canister is going to pop off, but with a minute left, they have the time to play this game. Obviously, Goyo is on the board, and, well, it's a big operator in the hands of Virtus.Pro. Oh, no. Shockwave from above, and Piano is able to get one, and then a second as Shaiko runs for the firefight, but just gets dropped. Rask is the only one that's really suffered so far, but now it's just Renshiro and Rafal against a fully fledged defense. Renshiro, you have everything ahead of you. And at least you've also got Goyo as a freebie handout. But Pasha, well, he's got the passion and he's earned the ability to run out and try and get another bit of blood.
Oh, he's managed to get another kill for himself, but there is still going to be the smoke in WTG standing at yellow stairs. And he finishes everything off. A nice position there. He had the shotgun out earlier, ready to stop anyone who may be coming in the stairs. And he had the SMG-11 ready to stop anyone who may come in through the garage. I think that was quite a passive round there from BDS, and I'd like to see a bit more assertion from them if they do end up having to attack that site once again. The plans with the Twitch didn't seem to work out in their favor all that well, and going up against the Maestro, who was right behind White, and then, as I said, Smoke, who was well positioned, it made it really difficult for them, and they didn't really do much to try and take any upstairs presence, and that meant that Pasha was perfectly positioned to be able to run down yellow stairs, take the one kill he needed, and even though he didn't survive the run out, they still had that control through all of the round, which allowed them to take the win in the end as well.
Split site for the first time today. Is it the first time we've seen it all major? I'm trying to think back now across the other consulates that have been played, and I don't off the cuff remember seeing it. But I could obviously be mistaken in that. I quite like seeing split site. I think it adds a little bit to teams that are creative. It's more common in NA as a region. You see it a lot more than you do in EU generally. But when a creative team and when an aggressive team can bring themselves to this site and get a good lockdown of it, you look at the couple of C4s in pocket, the pulse there as well, and the possibility of Rask to get big rotations with the Oryx jumps throughout these hatches across this map, well, there could be something for Virtus.Pro here, and there could be something, most importantly, I talked about it at the beginning, with the Amaru ban that puts BDS off their game.
Well, we'll obviously have to wait and see, but yeah, looking at the Oryx and just seeing if there's going to be more value found from that and derived from it than there was from BDS. We obviously saw what happened with Alems as he really failed to get the conclusion that he wanted out of his usage of that operator. As you say, it is of course a different site, so different opportunities and different ways that you'll be planning to use it, but it's super useful because obviously one of the really big things about this site is the fact that because it is split, it can be hard to make the right rotations to be able to, or at the right time and in the right way to actually be able to stop what is going on, stop any plant going down in enough time and without enough pushback. When you've got the pulse, that helps because it means that you can see what's happening upstairs, but combined with the Oryx, you can make very fast rotations. You are putting yourself in a more beneficial position.
One of the things that we saw earlier in the Virtus.Pro versus G2 match was great preparation by Virtus.Pro. They knew how G2 wanted to hold themselves onto Villa, and because of that, were able to take a few of their attacking rounds. Unfortunately, it was after losing on every single one of their defense rounds, so it was a tough race, regardless of the prep. What we've seen there on the first round, and potentially here, is again another huge amount of prep. They've got the Maverick to start getting through these hatches. They're dancing kind of delicately, but Virtus.Pro, they're a well-prepped team, a well-put-together team in terms of the research that they do here. And again, for me, a very creative team when they need to be. They're waiting for this firefight, and the Lem suffers, but, well, is able to stay standing. Shockwave has a NUMP, which is a gun with a very famous saying about its capabilities, especially when you're going against the F2.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey.
I do not know what you're talking about. That's completely lost on me, definitely, and I'm sure everyone else as well. Shockwave is going to have quite a bit to go against as he knows that these players from BDS are really honing in on him. They've got a couple upstairs, they've got one on the stairs, and the drone's obviously being sent in. They just want to flush him out. Less than a minute remaining, and so much of their attention will be paid to him that maybe Virtus.Pro can rely on the fact that their other players aren't going to have that same attention applied to them. Shockwave has made the rotate down, though, and that means that BDS will be able to move on in, but there's still a full team of defenders that they have to worry about.
A Claymore catches Rask, a player who we know is very confident and comfortable in the big rotations. If that was placed above a hatch, that is hilarious, and I'm sad we didn't get to see it, but you can never really predict where an Oryx is going to go because he goes where Oryx's heart wants to go best. There is another one dropped. Shaiko finds, I believe, his first blood of the game. And look at all this control they have. And look at all the bodies falling beneath there. Dropped intently under as Shaiko finds 2 more and gets himself a triple.
BDS did make that look incredibly easy at the end there. All they had to do was get the kills. That's really what it kind of turned out to be. And that last kill at the end there was sort of peculiar. Why would you run into box when you know that that's where the hatch is? I don't know. Virtus.Pro are going to be thinking about that one and likely not returning to archives and tellers. What you see a lot of teams do is go there in the hopes that it will throw off the attacking team, but it is definitely a gamble. And just having a look to see if they've played on that site before in EUL, and the answer is no, they have not. So it definitely was a big gamble. Didn't work out, but okay, I guess they're going back.
You know, they're a team that takes by surprise. It's one of the things I said I like about them. Listen, if in their heads they go, we know what went wrong there, we know what we can change. By the looks of it, the big change is Rask. He's gone from playing on the basement to, I'm assuming, the top with the Echo, though he could try and dig himself in the corner of here and hope for a bit of safety between the big server stacks. It doesn't really matter where Rask is right now. The main point is those Echo drones are going to be eyes in the sky because the BDS push and close down came within the final 25-30 seconds. It was a late push. I can't keep harping on enough about the old-fashioned stick through the spokes mentality, but against BDS it works well. They're a team that sometimes gets shaken, communication gets a bit heated and heavy, and things start to slip through their fingers. If it's the opposite, if they get a roll, if they start taking rounds, Shaiko now on 4 kills after not showing up for the first, I believe, 5 rounds. He's a player that's starting to find his feet, and you cannot have that. He's too good.
Well, the really important thing here for Virtus.Pro is the fact that in just switching out that one operator, it entirely changes their efforts from focusing on flanking to focusing on pre-decided plant denial. And obviously that was a big problem in that last round because BDS, with such ease being able to sweep up those kills at the end, meant that they were unimpeded when making the plant. And so it was a relatively effortless take from them. If there is already a lot of utility placed to prevent the plant being made that didn't rely on Virtus.Pro making these rotations and making flanks, then maybe they can find more success because not only do you have the yokai drones, but you'll also be able to have the evil eyes too.
2 minutes on the board, and BDS being slow and steady, making sure they don't fall for any of the same mistakes they almost fell for before. And that's the main point of this, almost fell. They know Virtus.Pro are a team that likes to adapt and overcome, and they're not going to push in brazenly expecting the same results because, well, they're not going to get them. Virtus.Pro, they've changed, they pull off. Look how far away the bodies are this time. Before, we at least had somebody playing directly underneath. We had someone right on the server. There is not really anyone with the immediate confrontation. It's all verticality, all C4s, all ideas, and Mission on the far side, keeping pipes locked down and Shockwave on spiral stairs. They're waiting, baiting, and almost kind of saying, well, come get us if you want this firefight. Otherwise, well, with the activity, the drones, the eyes, and a minute 20, there's still a lot of work for BDS left.
That's a brutal loss there of the yokai drone. But one of the big things about the positioning of Virtus.Pro is the fact that because everyone's so spread out, it's very impractical for BDS to do any kind of a clear, really. They could go for it, but there's still so many unknowns. So they kind of do have to move in on the site, and that's why it's important the way that Virtus.Pro have set themselves up, because it means they're ready for when that happens. WTG's positioning here with the shotgun is definitely an example of that, because they are just waiting for the plant to be attempted. They're not going to try and walk into the lines of sight of BDS, so they're going to force them into a position where they have to try. But Rafal's actually going to open things up there with a kill onto a mission, not what Virtus.Pro wanted.
It's these moments of timing that are starting to fall through VP's fingers. BDS are taking risks. They're moving into the play space where it should be being watched, but it's just happening at the times where VP's eyes are away from it. And it allows BDS to set themselves up in sight in angles that they didn't think were being so actively held and just catch them by surprise. And Renshiro isn't going to wait any longer, swings onto WTG. And now it is Rask. I talked about him being far away from the site, and unfortunately a bit too far away. Alems, though, caught up on the top of the stairs, caught out Rask, and caught himself a map point.
The worrying thing here is that at this point, as you say, you get to map point. Virtus.Pro, they played their gamble and they did it twice. That was a really big risk to make and it didn't pay off either time. So now they're going to have to go somewhere where they feel more comfortable. Whether they'd been trying that side out in scrims, whatever it was that they'd been doing, it wasn't ready. It wasn't enough to be going up against BDS at this point. And now if they want to try and keep this map in their favor, they're going to have to claw it back in other ways, knowing that they are on the teetering edge of map point the whole way through. This was their map choice as well. The next map that we move on to is the one that BDS supposedly should be feeling more comfortable on. And this is the last chance they have to stay in this competition if they want to go up against G2 tomorrow.
Well, they're opting to try and head down to Cafe. Not going to do the split dance one more time because, well, it's cost you 2 rounds now and you're on map point. You cannot afford to keep going for the risk rewards as kind of blatantly and brazenly as picking those offsites. And this was one you already took, and you took kind of well. It was quite a quick shutdown. The body above in Piano was able to capitalize on anyone that even got close. What I'm assuming we'll see from BDS is more attention paid to that verticality, more attention paid to the potential control of that piano hold, of anti-chamber, and maybe just having some more eyes on the door so they can get in and get the diffuser down. Because, as we've seen, if they get a little bit bold with the movements, they've been rewarded quite well so far. They've been able to get in and get through and try and not really get the diffuser down, but get in a position where they could, or they're just going to wait for VP to fall back in and take them by surprise.
This is very similar to how we saw it happen in round 7 as far as operator compositions go, except BDS are going to be going for quite a different approach here. Instead of being on the Twitch, Alems has decided to take the more traditional sledge. That means that once they do head down towards the site, he'll have that opportunity to open up the floor that is above the garage. That was something that BDS didn't do last time. They didn't have any vertical pressure. They didn't really do all that much to try and remove any of the vertical presence from Virtus.Pro. That gave Pasha so much control in the defense. And it's really a mistake that they're wanting to rectify. But they're coming in from the very top floor, which means they are expecting this full map, all floors, roam and hold from Virtus.Pro, and they want to be sure they clear it out.
Pings are coming in and the information is aplenty for Shaiko to try to shark his way through and take care of the man in the bathroom. He's locked in, but the crossfire is also present from both sides and it's turned into a little bit of a cowboy standoff on the 3rd story. So they're going to do what BDS often do, cycle back round. They know where the bodies are. They're going to try and apply some intense pressure onto the site, and Renshiro gets dropped, but there's the pickup from Shaiko. There's the second through the wall, drops him down, won't have the confirmation, but look at the bodies of Virtus.Pro trying to flood their way back in. Another one falls to Shaiko, fires for the 4th. But is instead going to pop the shield. I said that they would take it by surprise. They seem to have a habit of knowing where VP are, but this is what VP can do. They push back, apply some counter pressure, and apply a bit of reverse ideas of their own. WTG on the split. It is Pasha versus Rafal, and it falls the way of Pasha.
We had Shaiko playing the perfect bodyguard, but it turned out to not be so perfect in the end. One thing we've commented on so much about Virtus.Pro in the last couple of days is that they have been so ready to take refrags. And at the start of that engagement, it looked like maybe BDS would have the upper hand in that scenario, but no. We saw it come out from Virtus.Pro once again, moving on in, ensuring that they were triangulating and coordinating to know exactly where all the attacking members were coming in from, and there was always someone to deal with it. Even when Pasha was left so low HP in security, WTG was nearby to ensure that that kill was secured for the team. And that was a great round from them. Knowing how much they have to lose if they let this map slip between their fingers, seeing something like that does pump some optimism into the hearts of all of the Virtus.Pro fans everywhere, including the team themselves. And now they continue forward. The difference in round count slightly minimized, but still a way to go.
The question now is what sites are we going to see potentially from Virtus.Pro? So they've opted for lobby instead of going back to archives. We haven't seen this from them yet, but if this goes well, do they head up to CEO or do they try and roll the dice one more time on that split site and take that risk one more time? Either way, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. We still got to get through this one.
Well, the really scary thing here is that when we look back through the regular season, Virtus.Pro played on piano lobby offensively 3 times. They lost 3 times. Then you talk about needing to go to meeting a CEO. They played that 5 times and they lost 5 times. The only site on this map that they had any success on in the regular season was Cafeteria Garage, which they took all the times that they tried to defend it. But that doesn't give much room for success if you continue making the same mistakes that you did throughout the regular season. So we have to hope and believe, which is highly likely, that they have been scrimming it, they have been working on it, they have been practicing on it, but they don't have much wiggle room to get it wrong.
Angles are coming out from the top windows. Renshiro already exceptionally low. Virtus.Pro leaning back into the hyper-aggression that, well, I'm going to say did them some justice earlier on throughout this tournament, but has also unfortunately had mixed results. Shaiko, however, is just going to swing and pop the head of Pasha like it's nothing. Escapes onto the tail, almost finds the second. But Shockwave is there to shut them down. There's still one more gun on the admin windows. Doesn't quite catch Shockwave on the escape, though, Bride. Unfortunately, lets the man slip by, but, well, Alems is there for some French revenge, and Shockwave suffers le coste.
French revenge indeed. And now it's a 3 versus 3 with half the round remaining. Got one player prone in lobby, although Rosk is going to be getting up off of his knees, and WTG still crucially has control of bathroom, playing behind the mirror windows, and in fact just opening up some of the soft wall there, so he has that line of sight onto the yellow stairs should he need it. In fact, he's going to use it just to vault on through and make the rotation down. All 3 players deciding to convene in that part of the map, all coordinating together so that they're ready for when BDS begin to move on through. Alem's also just ready, but it's Rafal who's been droning downstairs and sending his drones still across the map so that they can figure out where everyone is. No rush is being made here by either team to be acting, but there's still so much that weighs on this round that as soon as someone makes the first move, it's going to end up in chaos.
The diffuser, cold and awaiting the pickup and response, and with only 30 seconds left, whatever intel BDS have and want to act upon, well, they've got to do it sooner rather than later. You've still got a Mizian to get through. Hasn't quite had the big games he's had throughout the tournament, but when you're, you know, a Mizian and you're still 6-8, you're still having a pretty exceptional standing, and you've got an Alder in hand, a great gun that you've wielded so well so far. They're going to try and stick the plant. The impact goes out. They go bold, and Rask with the cover gets one. A Mizian double wide peaks, but Rafal has the cover, and Alems has one too. With only 8 seconds, they've got to stick it. WTG could make a play here. Above, they're concerned about the cover. They don't quite catch it. No, there is the post plant. There is bullets in the legs, and there's actually a bit of fresh air in the hands. It's every which way these bullets are coming from. They know they're deep outside. They know they can't just go for the defuse. They have to contest this with a gun that is tough to handle and tough to maintain. They're gonna try and long arm it and bait the play, but BDS, they don't fall for that, and they take map 1.
Brutally wrenched out of Virtus.Pro's favor, but BDS are going to be feeling very good about that and very solid and very confident moving into the next map. Consulate very firmly remaining in their control, and they get one step closer to the grand finals of tomorrow. BDS, this team that came up through Challenger League, proved themselves and were on the global stage of SI just earlier this year, and now they are so much closer to making it to the grand finals of this major after having a great run through EUL. Are they going to be able to do it?
Wow, I mean, you've got to give credit, obviously, as I said before, to both teams showing up that quickly and that aggressively in that game. Obviously, it has fallen the way of BDS from what was some very stellar rounds in the middle tied together. But if you look at how the game began, if you look at the start of that map, it was anybody's possibility. It was 1 versus 1 so consistently in these post-plant situations. I would be surprised if we don't hit the 3rd map, but hey, who am I to talk about that when we have a lovely desk full of people to discuss this and put their heads together? We'll be back after a very short break with those guys to talk over what happened and what happens next.
shot for me. Perfect.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Analyst Desk. Let's go through our first half. Gentlemen, 4-2 for BDS starting on there. They looked like they were really carrying their weight on their map pick case.
Yeah, huge performance from them. Absolutely no surprises with Cold Renshiro coming out into that 14-8. You can ban Amaru Virtus.Pro, but you cannot ban Renshiro, and that is the fact that they've just learned the hard way.
I was going to say, and then, 4-2 after the first half, they were on the defense, okay, but then you're like, all right, now the Amaru ban has to work. This is where, we should see the difference between an overpowering BDS and then a bit of a crippled BDS, but it didn't really seem to matter. Their attacks were strong nevertheless. Shaiko on the Ash, just dropping hatches, managing to get multi-kills left, right, and center in various rounds. Nothing VP could really do against that.
Actually, for some people that might not understand why that Amaru ban came forward, Ace, can you shed a bit more light on that from some games that happened earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen BDS play on Consulate twice, G2 and Rogue. Neither time was the Amaru banned out. Fair enough from G2, they might not have expected it. Renshiro came along and used it extremely well to get up, particularly when attacking the top floor, get those hatches open, use the Amaru claw up from underneath, get himself into a planting position, and there was just no answer to it for the defenders. And then we saw the same again later on, so it's absolutely no surprise that we've seen that target ban come in. It is all based on plays that we've seen here in the major so far.
Yeah, I mean, banning the Valkyrie hap made a lot of sense when you look at BDS and how Renshiro, specifically the player that still had major impact on both sides, usually runs the operator and plays around Consulate.
I don't think it was a direct counterban to a player like Renshiro. A Consulate, a ban like Valkyrie is not too uncommon. It is still a very aggressive map that caters to a lot of jump outs from windows, and while the Valkyrie just simply gives you more information to play upon and basically aids these jump outs into the right direction, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah, it didn't really matter in the end. A 7-4 victory for BDS. So far, so good for them, but now we go to Oregon, a map that BDS kind of didn't look super hot on, at least in stage 1. Yesterday they unfortunately couldn't get to play it. It was scheduled for them to be for it to be map 3 versus Rogue, but they didn't even need to get to it, as ended up in 7-5, 7-3 for BDS against Rogue in that matchup. Looking at how Oregon is, Ace, and how effective we've seen Virtus.Pro in their previous matches, is this something that BDS should be afraid of?
I think they've certainly got to be very cautious about the matchup on Oregon here. Like you say, we've seen good performances from Virtus.Pro, but we've also seen that they can be beaten on this map. And right now, we've got a couple of players, Renshiro and Shaiko, that are really hitting shots. And the battle for Oregon can often come down to the attack and who can get in there successfully and get the better half on attack. And if they continue as they have been, it wouldn't surprise me to see that be BDS.
Okay, that's...
Yeah. I have to agree, BDS started out really strong on Oregon in the first weeks of EUL. After that, Rogue came along and completely dismantled them, but we got to keep in mind there's a lot of weeks that passed since that play day. There's a lot of time for them to have made the adaptations they need to get the map playable again, so to say, to feel comfortable on it again. So I don't think BDS has to worry too much. Just have to be careful that Emission and Pasha, the 2 impact players of VP, are not going to be popping off, and if they do, you need to have a response, otherwise they're toasted.
Now you see the 8 played Oregons with their stats that are showing up on the screen for everybody. 52% overall win rate for the defense. You see it broken down by site, specifically for EU League, and you can tell, as Oregon was in the past, still is a fairly even map between the two sides, with no real advantage between the two. But since we're talking about Amaru and how certain positions on this map could kind of give you advantages, is this an operator that VP should be looking into banning yet again, Hap?
I'm thinking of it, and basically the only side it will be useful is either to cut off the rotations, right? Like you're trying to get into T3 quickly or up on the top floor to try and be in between roamers. Or if they're attacking top floor, then there's going to be two windows you want to be using it from. You're either going directly into attic, which is a suicide mission. You're going into games, which is normally a suicide mission as well. Or you're going into kids' bedroom, which is also a suicide mission. So I don't really see the Amaru really being useful here.
Ace, Kali, expectations?
Now then, Virtus.Pro we've seen put Clash to good use on Oregon, so if Kali is allowed to remain, then I would imagine we will see her brought along because she is a good direct counter to Clash. Of course, for anybody who doesn't know, one of the shots from a sniper rifle will force Clash's shield away. But, you know, do BDS come in and select Kali? Do Virtus.Pro ban it out? That could be in place of the Amaru ban. Take the Kali out and then bring the Clash, but I think we will see a counter ban if we see the Kali ban.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Thatcher ban that forces the Kali out, right? We've seen so many times the Thermite be a bit of a nuisance, slowing things down overall for the attackers. It just takes time to get through some of the reinforcements, especially on that top floor. Who knows? That's for our game to tell us. Oregon, map number 2 in the series. It could all just end right here for BDS, and they would move on to the grand final to face G2 again, or VP can take it and maybe take it to a map through Cafe Dostoevsky, where you guys were saying might actually favor them in that case. So let's toss it back to our casters and let's see what Le Coste will be like for this one.
I know when we left the studio, I made a promise. I made a pledge to those guys out there in Paris. I said, I promise, I'm never going to try and pronounce French on the stream again. Well, guess what? I'm not in Paris. I lied. I did it from home. Hey, we're back. We've done one map and it was very, very hot and very, very spicy. Now we're going to head to Oregon and, well, if anything is to be believed, it's not going to slow down between these two teams.
No, I don't suspect so. And I'm also really intrigued by this because neither one of these teams have won Oregon more than they've lost it. BDS played it 3 times, they've lost twice. Virtus.Pro played it twice, they've lost once, they've lost twice, lost once and won once. But the really intriguing thing about BDS on this map is this was the map where we had the fated game at the end of stage 1 where they lost 7-1 to Team Empire. This was the point at which in the season we thought, are BDS on a downturn or are they doing this on purpose? Are they trying to hide something? Or is this a genuine struggle? And if it does turn out that it was a genuine struggle, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to see... Well, I am ready to see what's going to happen. I'm totally ready. I'm here with my popcorn. But, serious face, this could turn out not necessarily in the most dominating fashion that we would potentially expect from this team.
Oregon has been a little bit of a sordid story throughout this major so far. It hasn't really gone the way that a lot of people have expected or seen as of yet. But, you know, again, if there's two teams where I think in the position that we're in the lower bracket final, it is all or nothing to find yourself with a possibility to slay the dragon that's already burnt your village at least once in this tournament alone. It's just everything is on the wall. Everything is here. And these are two teams where they work better sometimes in the pressure. They're happy to lean into it, happy to get aggro and respond to the chaos that is ensuing in and amongst it. And, you know, with this set of familiar bans, I think it's going to fall yet again to intense, insane gunfights.
Well, I'm excited to see if that is the case, but we did talk before about the fact that because these are two teams who are particularly known for their aggressive playstyle, we have had to see a lot more evident coordination come out from both of them. And this is a really interesting map because obviously throughout the course of stage 1 of EUL and the other regional leagues, a lot of teams have had to figure it out. They've had to figure out what the best way of doing things is, what the best way of going about it is, and learning and adapting as time goes on. I mean, one really notable thing that's sort of changed as the course of the season has transpired already is when you go down to, for example, a basement defense, what was initially incredibly sort of non-negotiably popular was to do a construction take. But nowadays you actually see laundry and freezer stairs take be a lot more favorable than it was before. So already we've seen a lot of changes. And I'm excited to see how these two teams do go about that coordination and methodology, and how that fits into the adaptations that have been made to this map over the course of the season so far.
Ying is on the board for WTG. We've seen Ying get some play from Virtus.Pro, but we didn't see her at all, obviously, in the previous map. So, for me, what I'm hoping here, if I'm looking at the potential of this going to 3 maps and I'm putting on the VP goggles and going, what could they do here? Lean aggressively into BDS. We saw them structurally start to fall apart before because, well, BDS kept on finding flaws, holes, routes round the side of whatever Virtus.Pro were doing on their attack or their defense, straight through the middle, or, well, just loop against them. Either way, it started to play in their favor. I want to see a little bit more of the same from Virtus.Pro, because they can do it very well when they have the confidence to. They've been able to hit heads with Rogue very confidently, and it showed in the results. BDS so far, it's been a little bit hit and miss. Maybe it's the pressure, maybe it is the kind of heft of this game. Either way, it's starting as it always does in a battle of blue.
I'm definitely intrigued by the Ying pick, as you mentioned before. A lot of teams, Rogue most notably, like to ban Ying against Virtus.Pro because they know that this is an operator that they feel particularly comfortable on. Now, in a lot of cases, if you are going to be playing those kind of visual impairment operators with the flashes, with the smokes particularly, usually you use them against a team that's playing a mirror, but mirror is evidently banned out. So you could even find that it still works against them in a way that they can't find another way around. Obviously, Warden isn't being picked by BDS, but what BDS are doing is just getting prepared for this meeting hatch to be dropped down into electrical, but Shaiko's not going to be too out in the open about that, instead just retreating to his original position.
The pop of utility happens and Alems, well, he's going to pull back. Not sure if they're playing with the late reinforcement as we often see, but either way, they're happy to try and just hold off, keep them at bay on elbow, and make sure no ground really starts to fall in their favor. The doubling up of Umar and Jaeger is a consistent on this map. To be honest, is in a lot of EU. It limits severely what you can actually do, and Shaiko, tail tucked between legs, sprints out of the danger and sprints his way to chaos. A minute on the board, they've got control of elbow. That's about it so far from Virtus.Pro in terms of the site pressure itself outside of the vertical. Now it's just seeing if they can find the bodies inside.
They've pushed the presence out of Harry Potter, but there's still the presence in pillars. So BDS are holding on to that control, and that's something that Virtus.Pro have failed to do so far. It makes this push incredibly linear, and unless they're going to be making a late round rush where they just collapse all in and rush in, which they could do, especially as Rask opens things up, but that shot onto Shockwave is going to make it harder, they could find that they struggle. Rask does get the second. Is it going to be the third? Yes, it is. So they are going to be moving on in. 20 seconds remaining, and just 2 players left on BDS. There go the smokes and all the flashes of the Candelas. Can BDS stop this push?
Well, pre-day LMs are going to do bits, and there's another 2 quick double kills across the board there. It was just the moment of when it came time to push. There was just still this presence of BDS, still untested. Sure, as you said, they'd pushed them out of Harry Potter. They'd got control of blue, but you needed a little bit more. Maybe a body could have been the difference there between the hit and the miss that occurred. It took heroics of Rask to even begin to scratch the surface of the hold. But unfortunately, wow. Clever girl, BDS. You're just on the side, on the shoulder, on the bush, and the Velociraptor pounces out. Kids' dorms, dorms main hall. We step to next, and, well, I'm hoping we see a little bit more aggression against the walls of the site a bit earlier, this time from VP. To be fair, though, BDS might play it a little bit looser. That was quite a claustrophobic in terms of bodies hold that we're used to from them.
It definitely was. One really interesting thing about their positioning, actually, was the fact that they did have the elbow wall open, and they did have a shield out onto the tops, which you frequently see a player play behind. But actually, the player, I think it was Brede, who was positioned around there, was still inside the site. It wasn't aggressive positioning at all, which suggested that even though, you know, they didn't end up doing an early late reinforce, per se, it was quite a passive hold, which is not necessarily what I was expecting from BDS. You oftentimes see a lot of players holding up there very aggressively for a decent chunk of time. Or maybe I've just become very used to APAC, where that is definitely commonplace. But it still was a bit more passive than I necessarily suspected. In this round, I'm definitely interested to see how this is going to go. One of the really notable things that I think they will have to do is position the Maestro in games if they want to be preventing or denying the breach onto the reinforced walls of Closet, because an impact trick really is the only option they have. Actually, I say that, and he's not even bringing impacts.
One of my curiosities, I know I pointed out that we're seeing Ying for the first time in this little showdown, is what did she do last round? Because Rask was the one that led on the entry. I'm trying to remember if I heard the Candelas pop off or not. I don't think
They did. They went off.
Where did they go off?
So the smokes, this is a good question, Fluke, because the smokes went off,
Yeah.
and then there was
I
a
heard the
flash.
smokes.
And then I saw some white. I heard the Candelas, but the Candelas happened after a flashbang.
Okay.
So I think it was kind of to try and facilitate that push that was really opened up by Russ, because he obviously got the 3K, but there was a lot going on at once. So I didn't catch where exactly it was.
I think it's, yeah. I mean, when you see a Ying on the board and you see it in the hands of WTG, you expect it to be this kind of pacey push against the side itself. Obviously, Ras got a 4K within a round just from charging in and charging through. They obviously timed whatever they did in the back behind the blinds fan, but outside of that, you know, it starts to boil down to, okay, well, where are you going to be playing this? Is this going to be a bit of a split decision now? Because that could have been a very rewarding process if you'd taken the Ying slightly further afield, drew some attention away from the Pillars fight, taken a little bit more land a little bit sooner. This is a more spread out push. We're seeing obviously pressure going in through walk-in as Shockwave drones ahead, and they have that wall open. They have the big angles they need from the balcony, and Shockwave, it's free real estate. Going to take a little bit more of an angle. WTG throws a Candela deep and tries to flash the bodies out the back, but at the very end of the roll, it gets caught. There's a pop from Pasha to blow up anything that may be closer. There's now a Wamai that's just put on the back of the door. Great timing, great placement. And yet again, we see one wasted, and Ras gets wasted too. Alems gets the drop.
Really disappointing when you hear the noises of the Candelas, followed up by a death onto the attackers, but there's a death onto the defenders as Shaiko gets gunned down by WTG. This is where Virtus.Pro are going to be looking to push in extra aggressively, and that's what they're doing. They put down the plant, but Pasha's going to be falling as those smokes do come out, and this gives BDS the opportunity that they need to just clear things up. Renshiro there with Bailiff. There's only one more left that they need to get, and it's a mission. He stays up for a little bit, but not long enough, and BDS managed to clear everything up, secure themselves the round, and Fluke, I'm wondering if Virtus.Pro are going to have to retire the Ying Dream.
I have a bit of faith. I have a bit of earnest faith in what can be done with the Ying. I think it was brilliantly played by BDS because it wasn't just that utility caught it, and we all saw the first one roll very long, caught just at the end, unfortunately. But then it was the disc that went up on the wall that Wamai caught the next. It led to Shaiko's death, sure, because it was still within range, and they just decided, screw it, let's push it anyway and throw some standard flashes through. Either way, I'm sure that they can get it to work. It's just more down to BDS slipping up right now, because what we're seeing so far, or maybe it's just happening a little bit off screen, and we're not seeing it, is a bit of a utility burn from the hands of VP. They've obviously got 6 flashes across the board as potential burn. It's trying to whether they're going to let those go through onto WTG, whether WTG's bought those smokes just for them. However, they quite like smoke plants, so I'd be surprised. It's a hard trade right now with Capital off the board.
I don't think the problem is necessarily that they're using the Ying badly. My point was more that they are using it to facilitate a really aggressive push at the end, and they haven't been able to make them work for themselves. BDS have been ready and waiting to secure the kills they need to. Almost every time Virtus.Pro has got a kill, there's been a trade just ready to be taken by BDS. And it just makes me wonder if the approach has to be changed by Virtus.Pro. And evidently the Ying is a really big part, a fundamental part of the approach they are going for. They've obviously chosen to bring it once again as they attack onto Dining, and I'm definitely willing to see it go well. I would like to see Virtus.Pro apply such a pushback onto BDS. I want to see a third map, absolutely. This is for the grand finals. This is for absolutely everything, and a massive devastating loss if you don't take it. We've seen exactly what Virtus.Pro have in them. I want to see it work out for them.
Waiting and baiting is the game here. We saw Leon do things beyond belief with this exact gun. Can his ex-teammate double down on the historic devastation that was spread all across the Showers Nation? Shockwave opening up the wall to the site either way, and WTG is droning themselves ahead and looks like they're primed and ready to push. Rask is going to make sure the corridor of Long is clear too, but here comes WTG. There goes the first Candela, and there goes the first Wamai charge. Caught and pushed into a corner. Alems doesn't get caught and tries to wait for a bit of attention. A second was caught on the opposite side as well. There's a deep bang to get rid of that shield, and there is almost an accidental kill on Shaiko. It could have been information, but either way, I think if it was, those shots might have been a little bit sharper towards the head, and they might have applied a bit more pressure. There is the full use of a big gun with a lot of bullets, but the pickup for VP comes through. Their shoulder cover has been pitch perfect so far, and it's no change there. Caught. Almost rotating up the white stairs. Shaiko still escapes with their life. Two very scratchy firefights, but there is a body far away that is waiting to get a little bit closer to Brede.
VP are really having to rely a lot on their own intuition as they've lost all of their drones, Fluke. Before even halfway had gone, they had just 2 left, and now they're running on such little info, and that's exactly why things like that, a mission getting gunned down with the diffuser dropped, are able to happen. Shockwave does clap back, but is it going to be enough? You still have these players, Shaiko so well positioned to be able to just clean up these kills. Diffuser dropped a second time, and Rask tries to peek around, but it doesn't work as Renshira is ready and waiting, and that was just devastating from the perspective of having no information and desperately trying to scramble onto the site. Virtus.Pro were definitely at a loss there.
There is always the argument to be made in what you need to get control of and how you do it on a site, and Showers is that room for this. You need that extension shutdown. You need that very important territory under your control to give yourself just a semblance of cover. Otherwise, it is a complete crapshoot of actually just trying to get inside, and you will be gunned down like fish in barrel. There, as you said, all the intel had gone. They had put so much into getting control of Showers. Alems had did so much, or had done so much, to hold on to that territory, make sure it stayed in their favor. Sure, okay, they didn't get the 4K that Leo managed yesterday, but they still took almost all of the Candelas, Zofia charges, Zofia herself, and then was picked up on the trade. At that point, all the drones had gone. Shaiko had been able to escape to a position where they could still get an amazing cross angle that could be instantly punished because there was no one to kind of cover that Zulu side. Nobody was on that backside in a position to instantly strike. We saw Brede come a few steps later, but at that point, well, Shaiko's already out of there.
Now, it's obviously a concerning scoreline at the moment, and those of you who watched the first game of the day, the upper bracket finals, will definitely be having flashbacks to when G2 were 6-0 and Virtus.Pro were just sat there with nothing. And you might think, oh, well, you know, they were able to pull it back a few rounds and at least get some hope. Like, they could do that again. The difference here is that Virtus.Pro were on the defense when that happened, and it was when they moved to the attack, their better side, that they sorted things out. I mean, it wasn't enough to secure themselves the round, but it was still enough to drag things back somewhat in their favor. The fact that they're not doing that great on the attack right now does fill me with concern, and it does mean that I would really like to see some change because they are struggling. But once again, it looks like something very similar is going to be brought out from them. But the question is, are they going to be ready for this change that's been brought out from BDS? Alems did 6-pick onto the Clash, not an operator that they've played so far in this matchup. Are Virtus.Pro ready to deal with the shield?
Quick fight happening around Harry Potter, and they pull back towards the ADS seclusion zone that they've built for themselves on the rotation. There is, I believe, a Wamai disc in the far opposite corner here, so Pasha's first pop will get caught, whatever the weather. There it is. And Shaiko still has enough to keep themselves cooking inside. Alems is battling back and forth on the door, sees the drone go through, which is going to give the game away of where Clash is. Zofia has rotated round to to deal with this exact problem. They've pulled away from the stairs, realized well, they got to be here, but there's the disc. There's the first one caught. There's an LM's able to pull back. There's more flashes. Oh, there's a shield there this time as well. This is more utility economy that is just completely falling into France's favor right now as they're able to just pull apart what their Russian compatriots are trying to put across.
Well, I was going to say maybe they would have to be aware of magnets that are around there that would prevent the Sophia from being able to hit onto the Clash, but in fact it didn't look like that was so much of a problem, and Rafale's not going to be too close to be able to add any more to them. Instead, he's going to be back here in pillars at the doorway to the corridor, throwing out that other magnet as it does get charged up, but Pasha's going to be getting that first kill there with the Vulcan shield onto a Lens. Shockwave following up as well. This is a good start here from Virtus.Pro, who now, if they do decide to rush in, have the man advantage by 2 players.
Wow, a death to a Vulcan shield. How often do we see that before defenders? How often does that happen too? Rask holds an angle with the Ash, gets one, but Bride able to get the revenge as he swings round with Renshiro showing up, but a smoke canister falls to the floor, useless, as its holder is removed from the mortal plane. Shockwave goes for the post plant with Renshiro steadily making their way across. Gonna try and drop into the mix of a firefight, but, well, no use when they have every angle and every possibility covered. Virtus.Pro take their first round, applying the pressure to a team that for the first time didn't seem like they had a plan to deal with it.
Now, interestingly, even though they weren't able to finish the plant because they didn't need to, that was, I suppose you could say, the first time that a team has planted on that site while BDS are defending it in EUL so far. That is actually EUL's. That's actually BDS's best defendable site on this map, and no one has been able to make a plant against them just yet. So that's a really good sign for Virtus.Pro. There were adaptations that were made by BDS. Virtus.Pro were going for something very similar. It was a risk given how things have been going for them so far, and they made it work, not only by getting the right kills, not only by getting rid of the Clash, who was going to be the biggest problem for them, but also by being able to secure something onto BDS that no other team so far have been able to do. Now, BDS obviously don't like that their pride has been hurt there, and they've decided they're going to be returning to this site, not with the Clash this time. They're going to return back to what they felt more comfortable on and what worked before.
I think it's a good rotation here from them. They're obviously pulling themselves back to, okay, this was working. We had an idea here and it worked well. It was a lot of utility burn, sure, and they got a little bit brash, bold, and brazen to try and push back against the Russian bear, but well, it went the way that we saw there. Clash caught out by their own team is an unfortunate end, especially when Capital's off the board. Obviously, it makes their life a little bit easier to survive on, but it gave VP that entrance. When we were last here, I said and quoted that if they'd got 1 kill before it came time to the push, it probably would have gone very different for them. They might have been able to take that first round. This time they had that kill. They were in a way not gifted to it, but they're able to take the fight and win it a bit further away from the site. It was a stuck-in fight. There was no escape for the guns and the legs of BDS, and from then, well, the entire tower fell. Now it's their time to double down. See if they can try and make it happen for a second time in a row, or see if BDS is still playing a little bit too close to the fire, and well, maybe they'll get burnt.
Lem should be able to provide some extra support to his team as well, should they require it. Not only playing with the key ACOG, but having those stim shots will be huge if anyone receives too much damage. Virtus.Pro are trying to be a bit more cautious and careful. I really like how they've put more attention to the tower stairs as well. There was something that we didn't see back in the first round. Everything was very lateral coming in through construction, and it really prevented them from taking much of that north side control that they desperately needed. But this time what we're seeing is a bit more care and attention being paid to the drones, which has been poor so far in this game. The economy really suffering, and also ensuring that they're going to be coming in through a more favorable angle.
Well, a lot of time wasted here to try and get out a Lems, who's playing a very aggressive game in a slightly different style here. This time he wants to lead with a gun, and, well, the Doc just had his hair cut, and I don't think he wants to try and replicate that process as a big CSX creeps a little bit closer. Another CSX, CRX. Just putting letters in now.
Just pick some letters.
It'll
do.
Throw them together.
Exactly. And that smoke actually coming out in into pillars does mean that BDS have had their positioning already compromised. LM's still moving on forward. I mentioned how their positioning in elbow wasn't particularly assertive, and it's interesting how this time we did see that. Obviously with the Vulcan shield blowing up, that's going to prevent that from being able to continue, but nonetheless it was a change there from BDS that we didn't see before. Now you can hear the wall being opened by Shockwave, and he's going to be able to look in a bit better. But Shaiko does get a kill onto Pasha, that really key player. Renshiro following up as well, and right now it actually just looks like so many kills are going to be coming in for BDS.
It's the flood on the site that Rask is trying to lead in, but cooked to death by the shield that for the one time goes in the favor of BDS. Have to push through the ground. Have to unfortunately meet their fate. All viewed on a bulletproof that led everything into the hands of BDS. They knew when the pressure was going to come, knew where it was coming from, and knew how to get rid of it. They keep their rotation, keep themselves locked in, keep themselves under control, and guarantee themselves a standard split. But at this moment, can they push it to a 5-1?
Mission running in through the fire and flames at the end there. You could just tell the desperation that they needed to try and do everything they could to secure it. Virtus.Pro are slowly watching their hopes dwindle away. We spoke about how this team, historically, when you look back, the first time they really appeared on an international stage was the Raleigh Major this time last year. No one knew who Fours were. They were this unknown, this underdog who made it all the way to the semi-finals. And now they found themselves in yet another major. This is the one chance they have to make it all the way to the grand finals for the first time ever. A team that people doubted, a team that maybe weren't the best for the first half of Pro League Season 11, and a team that have gradually been a name in the mouths of people, suggesting that they could be the new Russian giants after the fall of Team Empire. Everything is so close, a dynasty ready to be secured for themselves, and slowly that hope is becoming less and less tangible as BDS keep adding on to these rounds. And right now, it doesn't look like Virtus.Pro have much under the radar to be able to use to claw that back.
Rafal going for a bit wide, and they're bringing what could be an intense counter to Ying. An operator we've discussed a little about how effective she's been. Well, let's see if Warden can keep their eyes on lock now, because she hasn't really been that big of a problem. The utility combination and the economy has been put forward very, very well. It surely cost the life of Shaiko, not directly to Candela, but the flood of flashes that came in behind it. At the same time, well, this is what you've bought them. This is a direct counter. Are you trusting that they're going to try and just swing onto it? Are you going to let one go through so you can strike them when you think they're going to flood in? If it goes the way of Rafal, that could just completely pull this round.
Rafal has proved that he can turn things in the way of himself, so I certainly wouldn't discount it. This is the frustrating thing about Virtus.Pro, is that even when you see them have these hard times, you know they have it in them to turn things around. But going up against one of the most skilled teams when it comes to gunfights in BDS, you definitely know that this is the final boss of everything that Virtus.Pro know they're good at. Shaiko, once again, is going to be positioned up in lower attic to prevent that push come in. And last time Virtus.Pro got the games wall open very quickly, and they're going to do so again as the impact trick fails. This was something that wasn't even an option last time, but it just means Renshiro is going to have to try and take that shot. Instead, he is retreating. It didn't work out for them, and that means Virtus.Pro take control of that very key part of the map.
I'm a little bit curious how Renshiro was able to get through the site so easily. They had a presence on double window, had being the main word there, as Shaiko through the kid's dorms drops the body on the opposite side. It was just a very easy, non-pressured rotation there for Renshiro to make. Yeah, he wanted the intense clutch and fight through walking at first, but he's a big guy, Maestro. He is not quick, and all it takes is a bit of a wide swing from Rask or anybody potentially paying a little bit more attention to get it. Talking of rotation, Amision has to pull off of attic and start trying to do some bits on the double window that Renshiro is now huddling and cradling and, well, waiting for this pressure.
We also have to note the very important factor that when Virtus.Pro do come to use the Ying, there is a Warden on the side of BDS, who you mentioned earlier, who's going to really be a key part of that. Can a mission get that shot, though? The answer is no for now, as the Candelas come in to try and disguise the plant that's being put down by Shockwave. Eventually, Renshiro does go down, and the planter is made. Are they going to be able to do it? Trades coming backwards and forwards. It's a 2 versus 3 right now, but Shaiko is injured. A 2k from Bride, though. Is he going to be able to add on to the tally? Pasha is just looking to get around the doorways. He's the last one standing, but no, he can't do it. Alem's finishing things up with Shaiko there. Doesn't matter right now. They can disable the plant, and that's going to put BDS on a 5-1 scoreline at the half. Absolutely great play coming out from them for the most part on this map.
I like the idea that obviously they went for that clutch, and Bride like turned around and went, I got him, and then just turns back and sees Shaiko now dead. And it's like, Alems, what did you do? It's like, nothing. Nothing happened. Don't look.
I didn't do anything.
Nothing happened. He slipped. He slipped and fell into my bullets. Laundry is where we're going to start here. Obviously, it's been a bit of a love and hate story here between these two teams. And, well, you know, how can you try and pull yourself back round here, Virtus.Pro? Because your attacks so far throughout the day have been very, very good. Obviously, it led the charge on Villa. Let's not talk about the defenses of anybody, really, on Villa in the earlier day against G2. The second was back and forth. Things have slightly slipped through your fingers. However, when you were up against Rogue yesterday, the game you played, it was unbelievable defense. You were, for a lot of the parts, unstoppable. You were quick, fly, aggressive, aggro, all over the shop, and everywhere you needed to be.
3 wins to 2 losses is Virtus.Pro's defensive win rate on this site, particularly. So they are sitting at a positive, and they're going to really have to rely on the fact that they do have those positives to fall back on, given how dominant BDS have been looking so far on this map. Now, obviously, things could change at the half, but BDS, of all the teams I think of, when I think, what are some teams that aren't that great at attack? BDS don't really come to mind. They don't really pop up on that list, I'm going to be totally honest with you.
The thing about BDS and their attack is they are passion. If they have their plays working, if they have Shaiko pushing forward as he needs to on the entry roll, well, they become unstoppable. There's a way to stop him. Shoot him in the face. And historically, this was a problem for BDS because they used to only really have Shaiko. Then they picked up Lems, who brought some solidity to the team. They started to find their shape in terms of a plan B, which was better and better. And then they had Bride, who was the flex support that everybody wanted at that point. The best pickup that we generally saw leading into the season of EUL that just really came through for them. Now, obviously, Bride's got a little bit more work to do. Heart Destruction still on the board, has the possibility of capitalizing against Elbow and wants to try and apply the pressure to the shield. Dug in with flashes, there's still discs, and there's still ADSs to get through too. There's the first one gone. And WTG, well, with smokes in pocket, they're just going to hold on for now.
And this is that slightly more aggressive positioning that I spoke about before, and it really helps that WTG does have the support of the ADSs and the Magnus, particularly as Pasha is right by his side rather than in pillars, which is where BDS chose to place their Wamai. So it does facilitate that, and it makes it harder for BDS to be able to push through. They're also going to have to deal with the meeting hatch as well, but that has been electroclawed by a mission, and with Thatcher off the board, it makes it harder to get rid of. That means Rafal is really going to have to be in charge of that himself. BDS have half the round down, and they still haven't made much progress in being able to really push in.
Canister stems the flow and stems BDS a minute 10, and if I'm going to talk about how little ground Virtus.Pro are able to take, BDS, this is currently even less. Goes for a swing, but Pasha is there. Bride gets the trade. WTG is still present and was unfortunately swapping guns at the time of the affray. There's another body moved through, though, slipping through the fingers. But that's still not security. Now they're just isolated, cut off, and now one is able to be swung on. There's almost the close down. There's the knowledge that someone else is going to be firing on them, but caught reloading in the midst of it. Rafael tried to go big. Unfortunately goes home. Alems, last one left, is going to try and air jab the man out from behind pillars and push them slightly further away, but Virtus.Pro, they don't fall for that.
Oh, that trade from Rask was absolutely beautiful. Such aggression being exhibited there by BDS as they really had to take what they can get. The fact that Rask was really on point, he was ahead in the game, he dealt with it, really stunted what BDS were trying to go for, the last vestiges of their plan. It meant that Alems at the end was really left to himself. You kind of try to rely on that air jab, but when the defenders don't need to push forward, there's only so much that's going to do. And that was actually a really nice defense seen there by Virtus.Pro. And I think they're going to be feeling good about that as well, given that, as I said, this is their last hope. They lose this map, they lose the series, they lose their chance of going to the grand finals. And that's a devastating, devastating place to be. And so being able to feel like you can kind of bring it back in your favor, obviously a great place. Now they're going to be heading on upstairs, and I'm wondering if we'll see something kind of similar to what BDS went for last time they came to this site, as the operator lineup is very similar. You have Maestro bringing the impact, so you can expect him to be going for the impact tricking. Didn't work when BDS attempted it before, but obviously that really key thing the Virtus.Pro failed to do as the attackers was prevent the Maestro from rotating back towards the big window. They gave him really free positioning. If BDS can prevent that, then Virtus.Pro will find themselves in trouble. So they need to be very aware of those kinds of risks.
We're starting to see Pasha obviously playing on the Goyo role, and okay, we came in with a lot of bells and whistles about the Virtus.Pro Goyo. We haven't seen a huge amount of the shields be used successfully by them. Obviously, this is, I think, the first game where we've seen it actually get kills. It's not just about kills, it's about control of the space, but they've been pretty consistently counter-stratted and shut down. Alems is just going to shut down Rask as well very early on and drop the body inside kitchen. Well droned, well read, and well fed. The oven's inside, and well, now it's time for them to take control underneath. The verticality that Buck is going to offer, a much rarer pick since losing the frag grenades, but here is a site where he can completely swan through the feet, legs, and all the other attached bits full of blood that need to be shut down by BDS.
Yeah, this is actually incredibly intriguing because I think a big part of its potential comes in the fact that Virtus.Pro likely aren't expecting this sort of push. The big risk that you do run with it, though, is that you end up using a lot of your utility, including drones, before you have the option to move up to the site, and that you waste a lot of time. Obviously, there's loads still on the board, so definitely don't write that as a major issue just yet. But you have to remember that they are going to have to rotate up and make themselves safe into the site after they've done everything with opening up the floor and dealing with that, because obviously that's where the site is. So it means things like getting games room wall open and taking attic aren't going to be points of focus right now, and usually that's what teams go for first.
A bit of a slow has hit us yet again as BDS try to measure up, but look at Pasha. Deep underneath a freezer, went on a big wide rotate and is concerned about flank watch drones or any possibility of, obviously, well, any other flank watch bits and bobs and nightmares that might strike. But no, they have been entirely able to sneak their way through, and if this is a flaw in the armor of BDS, this could be a huge strike. There goes Buck, got the read a little bit late, but there is Renshiro. You could see Shaiko was coming to guarantee the trade too. They had to make it happen, and they luckily did. And now Amision, well, he's been bought a little bit of breathing room and space. The smoke canister is going to buy him just a thread more with the 30 seconds left.
The great thing that BDS secured there was the fact that there are so many men dead on the side of Virtus.Pro now that even though it was a ballsy play, it didn't work out in their favor. Renshiro getting another kill, and BDS just gets everything they need, with Shaiko finishing things off onto the low HP Emission. It was an interesting attempt at a flank from Virtus.Pro there. Obviously not enough. You bring one man down, you've still got 4 standing, and the buck probably wasn't that important at that part in the round anyway. It was fun to watch, but BDS said, "Nah, we still got you. We still got your number." And instead of focusing so much on pushing in to get the objective down, they just played their gunfights well. They played their positioning well. And it meant that by that point in the round, they had every advantage they needed. And now they find themselves on match point. Win this next round, and they will be facing G2 tomorrow in the grand finals.
I mean, a G2 rematch versus BDS, these stories, they write themselves. For all of us earlier making casting announcements and correlating ourselves towards Disney princesses and fairy tales, this is the tale of Siege in EU. This is the tale often said between BDS and G2. And, well, BDS want to make sure that the book reads at least in their favor this time round. Virtus.Pro, you are staring at 4 rounds as an attempt to pull it back. Earlier, to be honest, you were staring at 6 rounds, and you made 4 of them work against the aforementioned G2 giant. Can you do the same here? You are more than capable enough of bringing a little bit. Maybe it's because the day has been long for you. Maybe it's because you're in a situation where BDS have just been able to have a breather, have a read, and get themselves put together. Either way, I've talked about your 6th gear. You got to find your 7th, unfortunately.
No more Maestro, instead electing to go with the Mute. And now what I'm interested to see is whether Virtus.Pro opt to play some kind of a roam. That's kind of what it looks like given the placement of these Mute jammers here, because BDS are bringing the same operator composition that they did last time. Virtus.Pro have had the precedent set for them as to what kind of a take BDS liked to do on this site. So they're ready for it. Rask positioned in the showers corridor. He knows that they're coming in. This is very aggressive, and if it messes up for him, this could be the end. But 2 kills already out for Virtus.Pro. Maybe the fates will start to change here. BDS still have men on the board, and they still have the chance, but it's very early on, and those are some big losses.
Pasha's taken a shoulder of damage, and if I'm talking about 7th gear, VP have hit it off the mark. There, unfortunately, goes Rask. Brede is able to pull back 1 more into their favor, and now they're just concerned about keeping eyes at either side. It was a great counter in response to how they fell before, and they made sure they didn't fall from the same mistakes. It's put a little bit more of a concerned idea into the step coming forward from BDS. They want to make sure that they know where the VP players are instead of just pushing, aggressively taking. They did, to be fair, suffer the rotation at the hands of Pasha before, and, well, that's always likely when he's still on the board.
Well, this is the really important thing, right, is BDS know that they have plenty of wiggle room, they have plenty of space that they can play with. If they do lose this round, it's not the end of the world. They have a very big advantage that they can use. Now, obviously, you don't want to be giving rounds away, but it just means that they're not in some feeling of absolute desperation where they just have to run in and take what they can get. They can take the time to do the drones. They can be thorough, and that's what they need to be, as now everyone on Virtus.Pro has returned to the site, and BDS are going to have to move up in order to move in on them. Still at the man disadvantage, as the only player that Virtus.Pro have lost is Rask. But we've seen what BDS can do. It's not necessarily going to be the end of the world for them, but they have to prove it.
45 seconds on when the execute starts to come from BDS historically. They know the angles they want to lock down, and a mission of players had a pretty good showing so far hasn't been able to find themselves in this, arguably the most important maps to make those shots count. Goyo shields being popped just under the window as 15 seconds of, unfortunately, having to be patient waiting. The canister is going to double down on that, and there's no way Nomad can get close enough to force the corner man out. The drone is instead going to get the beat and the read on the bodies inside. They have a little pocket of ground they want to try and take, but it is through an aggressive no man's land, and the timing of the swing comes out into the favor of Virtus.Pro. Now it is all down to Rafal on the window, but with 3 seconds, well, it was an exit frag, and that was all it was.
Hope for Virtus.Pro does continue forward, but the big thing they have to be concerned about now is the site that they made work for themselves and adapted and made the changes they required, they can't return to now that they've got a win on it. Match points still persists, of course, but this is where VP have to decide what it is they're doing next. It looks like they're going to be heading downstairs. They did take this site in round 7, so still the optimism remains. But just like Virtus.Pro adapted in that last round to ensure that they could go up against what BDS were going to bring, are BDS going to do the same thing well enough to go up against what they know Virtus.Pro will bring?
Laundry and supply. It was, as you said, very solid, very locked in, and a great play for how BDS, or to how to counter BDS even. VP knew the game that wanted to be played, and they shut it down. It was a little bit of an isolation, and I think one of the things that you talked about on the previous push on Dorms was, well, that's a bit of a different take, and I think that could work well here for BDS. If they can kind of shift the presence that they want to put here and apply, if they can maybe draw a bit of focus away from Elbow and Blue and just pull one of the VP players out of the mix, out of the problems, they might be able to lock themselves in with a bit more of a turnaround, a bit more of a capitalization upon what else is being put forward. VP in the same breath, well, what's their response going to be? Are they going to potentially assume that they'll expect that? They're going to lock themselves in with some soft doors on Freezer to get a bit of intel on the approach. Outside of then, it's down to BDS now to adapt.
I'm expecting this similar kind of supportive positioning for the defenders, and that is what we're seeing with WTG and Pasha really arm in arm, so that WTG is helped and supported in being able to take that aggressive positioning in Elbow and provide a hindrance for BDS who may want to push in through construction. A mission is obviously ready and waiting for anyone who might want to make it into meeting. That was something interesting about BDS before, is that if they wanted to open up the meeting hatch, they would have had to have sent Rafal on the Maverick up there, but he actually opted to not do that. So it could be that they do repeat that and decide to ignore the hatch, but the point still stands is he will meet some issue if he decides to head up there.
So much pressure is being applied now, and obviously they're trying to get that shield out. They've burnt ADS much better. They're also trying to bait with the air jab and get some attention on the rotation. There's the first canister on the door at the 2-minute mark. That's such an early bit of utility. Look at how much sharper this is from BDS. The time difference between getting that shield down and forcing them out of Elbow, it's a good minute quicker.
WTG straight away having to do that late reinforcement as Renshiro sent the drone in, because as you say, the utility getting destroyed makes it so much harder for Virtus.Pro to be able to hold where they want to. And now they start to move back. They have the rotation ready, of course, but I don't suspect BDS will move in through the south side, but look at the control that they have here of Blue. Opening up the two walls, one with the Hibana pellets, one with the blowtorch, it looked like, and this is just going to give them such a point of ingress into the site.
Well, the eyes are on and the walls are open, and there's a minute for them to try and blink themselves and focus towards the body. They haven't been able to catch any of players of VP just as of yet, and that's always a big problem because VP is so talented at striking around the backside. The perfect synergy there as the crescent moon of Chaos is looking to try and collapse and grab the clawed heart of this central site here. The drones are trying to piece apart anyone that might be on the close corners, but they can't quite see anybody just as of yet. The dancing side to side of Rask is waiting with more than bated breath on that wall to fall. The battle starts to try and happen in as they go for the plant. Swung wide, the cover wasn't as sharp as it could have been. A body falls either side and the diffuser is cold. Rafal instantly tries to get it hot and get it working again. They need to stick it if they want to lock down this collapse, but it's dropped again. There's another swing. There's another close down. It's a 2 versus 3. 15 seconds. The diffuser is watched fervently by a shotgun on the close quarters. There goes one. Another trade and another trade. A 1 versus 1. 7 seconds left. Everything to play for. Sees the barrel of the gun, but no! It fires a second too sharp. Shockwave.
So close there. BDS saw the end in sight, the light at the end of the tunnel, and Virtus.Pro closed the blinds and said, no, we are keeping ourselves in this game. WTG with the shotgun. A mission, he got that original kill, got caught up in a crossfire, and it was at that point that I thought the positioning of BDS is really well structured to take this. It's going to make it very hard for any kind of a rotation to be made by these remaining members of Virtus.Pro. They've spread themselves out across the basement. We had Pasha and Freezer. We had 2 of the players move back towards Laundry. At that point, you have to commit to where you are. If BDS can punish that, which they will, then this is over for VP. And it wasn't over for VP. They got those trades they need. They brought it down to the 2 versus 2, and BDS were flying more blind than I think they really thought that they were. And now it moves on forward, and suddenly that difference in round count is really narrowing. It's still not in a safe zone for Virtus.Pro. We're not at overtime yet. BDS have 2 more opportunities to take the match point into a victory, but what looked like a devastating map for Virtus.Pro at the half is starting to look way more even.
6-4. The gap is slightly slimmer, and there's still, unfortunately, a bit more work left to do for VP. We're back on that 1 versus 1 thing that we saw at the very beginning before, and, well, WTG is going to try and put a stop to that with the clash, the plexiglass wall that stops a lot of teams. Didn't have the best success earlier on this map in the hands of BDS. Can WTG make it work a little bit more solidly? Because, well, you really have to make it work right now. This is all you've got left, all the time, all the breath, all the possibility of putting yourself in that final against a lot of expectations. You've already done so well, but unfortunately today hasn't fallen in your favor just yet. Now's the time to try and flick that luck.
Well, this is going to be a really big risk for Virtus.Pro because this is a site that they have to come to now after having 2 straight victories on the other 2 primary sites. But this isn't a site they've had loads of luck on in the past. Only 1 win out of 3 times coming here on their defensive rounds. It means that they're going to be doing this with bated breath, feeling very... Well, I'd hope they're feeling confident, but I suspect that it is going to be weighing on them somewhat. Rafal's drone is just right there watching Rusk. I think he knows that there is a drone around, but he can't necessarily...
It's just...
Yeah, there we go.
Just waiting.
He got it.
He's trying to get it as a pet, but it didn't quite work. Shaika wants to apply the pressure onto Zulu here and is looking to see if they can dig in the angle against Rask, but, well, they don't want to burn that utility and that economy just yet. A minute 30... It seems like so far, I was about to say a similar story to the first push on Laundry, but Renshiro shows up from wherever he is and blows out the man in the corner of Zulu. There's the body just in the school bus and pops the grenade perfectly to get that.
I mean, that's not great because you don't want to be losing control of the shower's corridor, but you can't exactly have anyone else move forward. And now Shockwave has gone down as well. Rafal adding on to that with Pasha. Just 2 men left remaining, Fluke, and there's 5 players of BDS.
And it's really, really starting to collapse now. They're going to have to do more than the heroics they've put through before. And it's all down to a clash. I said she might have been the stem and the flow, unfortunately. Can't even begin to make it happen. BDS, you have 1 more chance to take care of G2. Whether that's more important to you or not than taking the major, I guess that's a story we'll have to find out tomorrow. Virtus.Pro, you came so far and played so well, and everyone's so excited to see where you go, but unfortunately, today is just not your day.
Virtus.Pro, the team who got into this major on a technicality and made it further than anyone thought they would, beating out the favorites to get through and making it all the way here. They didn't make it to the grand finals, a flawless round ensuring their place 6 feet under. But the fact that BDS have the opportunity to go up and play G2 in the finals, Luke, this is huge because not only did G2 put BDS down into the lower bracket, but also we look back at something like SI when they played together in the group stages. That was another 2-0 from G2. This is a team who have a dynasty, a history. They want to prove they're still the best, and they have always been there to tell BDS where their place is.
I guess it's one of those stories and one of those settings that, well, as I said, it's a fairy tale ending for at least one of these teams. That is, however, going to be picked up, obviously, tomorrow. All of our games today have been played, but don't go anywhere yet, because we've still got some smart people that want to try and pull stuff together and pull things apart out of the chaos that we just saw. Analysts, Milosh, please, if you would be so kind as to take it away.
Thank you so much, my good queens. We are back on the analyst desk. Ace, Hap, what an absolutely entertaining map number 2. I have to say, the series overall had some great moments, but the second map is just way closer. We talked about Oregon, how BDS had some things to work on. It looked like VP were pretty confident coming into this.
Certainly seemed like Virtus.Pro had more impact there on Oregon, and they always felt a little bit closer to being able to get themselves onto Cafe. And I honestly feel, I will stand by what I said, had they managed to get through Oregon and onto Cafe, I think they had a huge shout to take the match there. But ultimately, I come back to what I said at the beginning, and for me, out of the teams that have lost so far in the major, coming into this matchup, BDS just look like the strongest of the three, Rogue, Virtus.Pro and BDS of course being the teams that have taken those L's, and they just look like the best, and they looked like the best of that bunch once again.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, BDS, they came in flying in this second map. They had such a big lead, at, like 6-2 at some point, and VP just refused to die at some point. Like, certainly after that, I believe it was round number 10, you thought, okay, it would be over now, you know, that they're starting to get the plan down. But every single time a new member threw himself on top of that defuser, he would fall, a new member just jumps on top of that defuser. They weren't allowed to get that plan down, BDS, and eventually, of course, VP managed to get that round. They refused to die, however, BDS, they refused to give it out of their hands themselves as well.
All right, guys, I have to say, with all of this, G2 versus BDS Grand Final, G2 go in with a one-map advantage, as we said before, at least no 0-3 for G2 in a best-of-5 final. We're going to say it again. Maybe somebody can clip that and post it somewhere. We're just doing it for the cloud here. Let's just be completely honest and transparent about it. But was this BDS that we saw in the game today against Virtus.Pro the team that learned from its mistakes on Friday and is preparing for that grand final tomorrow? Tim.
I think that we are likely to see a slightly different matchup to the one that we saw first time around. I don't think G2 are going to come in and roll over this BDS side this time. I think BDS have grown into the tournament. They had a tough first matchup and they just met G2 at the wrong time. But they've taken a lot of confidence out of the Rogue, out of the Virtus.Pro fixtures, and honestly, I think they're looking good and they are looking stronger than they did, and we are in for a close matchup tomorrow. It's going to be a real humdinger.
Sometimes we just don't understand what they say in their
I've no
English.
clue what he just said. No, I've no clue
What
he
is that?
just said,
Is that a northern thing?
Yeah, what is it?
No, it's a British thing. I think anybody in Britain would understand. It means it's going to be like explosive. It's going to be a cracker. It's going to be exciting.
We're mainlanders. We don't get that. We don't get those references. It's tough for you and me, Hab, these days. The UK Massive are taking over the EU League. I can tell you that much. But Hab, from your perspective, BDS better today, ready for tomorrow?
Better today, ready for tomorrow, not too sure. G2 is definitely a team that excels in these best of 3 or 5 matches because they have a wider map pool than the average team does. Because, I mean, in best of ones, you only have to focus, realistically speaking, 3 to 4 maps, right? You're going to be able to get the rest out. It allows you to get away with a lower map pool. Whilst in the best of 5, you can only ban one map. Just one map that you feel not comfortable on that they can remove. The rest you have to be able to play. So, and we know that G2, from like historic purposes, they are good at that. They also say they prefer it, and tomorrow is going to be the place there they can show it.
All right, well, before I come back to you guys and kind of clean things up for this day, let's first have a quick chat with Lems from the winning team, BDS.
Hello.
Bonsoir, Lems. Welcome back. Congratulations, man. You guys made it through, and you're in the grand final versus G2. You can breathe for a moment. How do you feel now, finally, after this grueling battle?
I feel good, but huge shout out to VP because they made it hard for us, very hard.
Actually, do you think that Virtus.Pro, having played a game earlier today, kind of made them warm up and be a bit tougher of a team against you today? Because you guys were coming in cold. You didn't have the same prep as you did live playing against G2.
Yeah. Obviously, it's easy, kinda easy, I will say, to play another match when you already played because you already warm up and stuff. But we did a warm up too. I think it helps a lot. So we were ready for the match.
Yeah, always some warm-up scrims before. This is some of the public that don't really know how it works in the backstage. Yes, the teams do indeed do warm-up scrims before it. Now, Consulate map number 1. VP banned Amaro against you. First of all, this is an operator you guys used very effectively. Renshiro very specifically played very well on this map. Was this target ban something that hurt you or your strategies you wanted to play on Consulate?
Not really, to be honest, because I think Consulate is one of our best map. Even we didn't show up properly, I will say, against G2. We have a lot of different ways to play Constellate. We have like fast ways, slow ways and stuff. And the Amaru ban, it was kinda like not surprising because we were expecting it, but like I said, we just take the ban like it is, and we just try to adapt and play something different.
Well, when you get to Oregon, you guys went for that defense to play defensive side in the beginning. Was it part of the plan to try and take as many rounds as possible starting on that side?
Sorry, can you?
On Oregon, when you went to
Oregon,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when we start defense, of course, when you start defense on Oregon, the goal is to put as many rounds as possible because obviously you have the side advantage. So yeah, at the start of the map, I just say, guys, let's go. We just have to put a wall, like I said in French, we have to put a wall. They can't pass that wall, and I'm very happy because that's what we did.
Yeah, that's what happens. And, you know, VP try to replicate the same style of play on their defense where you have like staunch walls and you pull back bit by bit. There was, I guess, the second to last round where you were pushing basement. I don't know if you had any tabs or information on the smoke that moved up a bit further closer to the bomb chassis to fight anybody coming in for a plant.
No, I don't think we had info on that. The thing is, like, when we did that, they destroyed a lot of drones. I think we did the same on defense, and that's what cost us the round. Maybe lack an info at the end. They did a very good job at denying info, like drones mainly.
All right, very understandable. So Virtus.Pro, definitely a tough opponent, even though it didn't go all the way down to Cafe Dostoevsky, but relatively close maps between you, 7-4, 7-4, Consulate in Oregon. Anything you would like to say to all the fans out there, old and new, for BDS? Because, yeah, let's just say it again, you're in the grand final of the EU Major.
Yeah. So thanks for the casting and for the interview. And I would like to thank every people who's supporting us through this major and through years and months. Thank you, guys. We see all the message in the chat, the private message and stuff. So thank you, and we'll make you proud.
So very wholesome, LMs, as usual. Man, you guys are going to have some time to rest in the meantime. Tomorrow you'll be coming in fresh versus G2 in the afternoon around the same time as our stream started today, around 4 or so p.m. CEST. Until then, LMs, thank you so much. Bonne nuit and bye-bye.
Bonne nuit. Ciao.
Ciao. So here we are. They're ready. They're prepared for G2 tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe BDS have learned from their mistakes.
They've had the time. That much has to be said. They've played less Siege than everybody else, so they've been able to prepare for this. After they got the game done today, they will have had a look at this matchup and probably made their own assumptions as to who would be going through, and I'm sure that they will be doing a lot of work in the background tonight now to try and prepare for that matchup, and they're going to need to. They are going to come up against the better BDS than the one that we saw in round 1. There is no doubt in my mind.
I'm just thinking of it. G2 only played 4 maps. There's not that much that can go off. Some of them have been pretty, pretty not really close, just pretty convincing as well. So BDS, they really need to find a way to punch through what is G2 at this moment, because otherwise they're going to be in for a very hard time. The same goes for G2 though. They can definitely not sleep on BDS because they have improved during this tournament.
Well, you know what, guys? There's a lot on the line for this tournament. $62.5 thousand for the winner, 285 SI points. I'm sure Hap will talk about infinitely tomorrow, but there's a trophy on the line. Let's turn away to the studio. We might not be there, but the trophy is awaiting the victor. So there it is, the August Major trophy. Isn't it pretty?
It's so weird that we're not here right now.
I know. I wish we were there.
I wish to.
Ace, I wish you were there as well. I mean, we would have had to like redirect some of the lights, but otherwise
You haven't even seen my final day jacket yet, Milosh.
Oh, final stage jacket, let's go. Yeah, tomorrow we're all gonna get very well dressed. I wouldn't look really nice in a dress myself, but I will go for the shirt and the blazer. Maybe a tie. I don't know what you guys are gonna go for.
I've got a little something lined up in the jacket department. Don't worry about that, Milosh.
Yeah.
I'm just very scared for Fluke.
Why?
You know, you just saw that studio. I believe his jacket is
His
still
jacket
there
is
as well.
there,
I don't know if we have a shot of the jacket there. I don't think
No,
we do.
it's
but that
in the
would be-
green room. It's in the green room. They should have
Yeah.
probably put like his jacket on the trophy as part of
On
it.
the trophy.
Yeah, so who knows? Before we finish though, let's take a look at our bracket again. How we've gotten all the way here. Quarterfinal number 1, Virtus.Pro versus Rogue. That was a 2-1 victory for VP. Rogue a bit out of shape in the game. 2-0 for G2 against BDS. And they continue to plow through the Virtus plow, I guess, in the first semi-final. Move on to the grand final where G2 in the best of 5 will have a 1-map advantage. BDS dropped down to the lower bracket as well as Rogue. 2-0 for BDS in there in that matchup that actually was closer than you would imagine. A 7-5 on map 1 and 7-4 on map 2, if I'm not mistaken. 2-0 as we just saw between BDS and VP, 7-4, 7-4. And the grand final is G2 versus BDS. An EU rivalry that has been brewing for 2 or so years, and yet now here it is. The August Major 2020. It's all over the place, man. Who would have thought? Not me, but G2 in the grand final, definitely something I guess a lot of people were expecting, but BDS definitely proved that they're up there when it comes to playing an entire series and not just going through the best of ones that we have in the usual EU League stage.
I think
Pretty good at that as well.
I think we've got the 2 most deserving teams in the final. I think
I
that's,
completely
from
agree.
what we've seen so far of the major, there's no question about it. They are the 2 that deserve to be there and fight for the prizes, fight for the SI points, and they are going to throw everything they have at this.
And I mean, we mentioned it before, right? Like, there is, of course, a lot of prize money on the line, but I don't think any of these players care about that, because I think they only care about this SI points, because that is what gets them at the biggest stage
I mean,
at the end of all
if
this.
they don't care about it, I'll take the 62k. I'll pay the tax. I'll happily pay my taxes as a soon-to-be German resident, and half of it will go away. Not a problem. I'd keep 30k. You know what? Here's 500. Angie, Angela Merkel, you can keep those 500 all for yourself. It doesn't matter to me. So, I don't know. SI points, can't use them myself, but I'm sure the teams, as you say, would love to have them. But let's open up all the gasters, all the talent. Bring them to me on the chopping block. There it is. Desichu. Not sure where he is. I think he's so ashamed that he has disappeared.
Where has he gone?
It should be.
He's just
he
said, oh, no,
disappeared.
wait. He's just literally put a message in.
He's here.
Whoops.
Let's show him up.
No, okay.
he will
well,
join-
no camera.
He'll
He's
join
a
in
little
a
bit
minute.
shy.
He's ashamed.
Yeah.
I mean, look, VP lost.
Oh no, wait.
I
Yeah.
was
Oh, no, yeah,
victorious.
he's ashamed.
I was victorious. So I'm glad that things worked out. Although I am neither an analyst nor a caster anymore,
Stop using that as an excuse. You're not allowed.
Stop using
You're
that
not allowed to
excuse.
keep using that as an excuse.
I will keep using it until the end of time.
He just wants to remind everyone that his opinion doesn't matter, and to be
Hello.
honest, he should be okay with that.
Speaking of people whose opinions don't matter, here's Desichu.
Wow.
You gotta leave now.
Rude.
I mean, Milos, you're looking mighty irrelevant down there on 53%, I won't lie.
I mean,
Listen.
there's green on my name, and I'm no Harry Potter, but as a Hagrid, I can tell
Milos,
you green is a
Milos,
good thing.
if you'd ever studied history, you'd know that winning a battle does not win you the war, and sadly you are still losing in this war. How's that bottom of the table looking right now?
I'm playing the long haul game, Derry Holt.
With 1 series left.
Long haul, long
You
haul.
can maybe tie yourselves up with Des, with Des, but that's about it.
I'll see
That's
you.
not happening.
I'll see you in 2025. Desichu. We're gonna
sure you shall.
We're gonna keep that tally up until then. Don't you worry. At the end of the day, this is where we stand. I guess predictions for tomorrow, or you know what? Let's just not say that. Let's keep it until tomorrow.
Okay.
Under lock and key. Derry, how do you see this BDS moving into the grand final tomorrow?
They look good today, but I'll repeat the same issues that I had before, is that I think they were made to look a bit silly against G2. G2 just completely shut down what they wanted to do. I don't expect G2 to loosen up on that tomorrow. So although they look good today, I'm not convinced they're going to have the same freedom tomorrow.
Do you?
G2 just look really together right now. I mean, fairly indomitable. So, I mean, BDS have what it takes, I think. And when we look at the regular season, BDS did beat G2, but that was a best of one. And it's kind of when you're in for the long haul in the form of a best of three, it makes it a lot harder. And so far, BDS have not proved they can do that against G2.
As a long haul expert, I can definitely tell you that it takes a while. Fluke, your POV, BDS.
I mean, the first time round, I was the only one that predicted BDS against G2.
And you were wrong, let's not forget.
I was wrong. I know I was wrong. But at the same time, I want BDS to put in a fight. G2 are expected to win, I would say. Statistically, it kind of says that. But BDS, this is the best they've looked. One more day, one more sleep, big old breakfast. See where it goes.
Big old breakfast, yeah. French breakfast, full of
Delicious.
a lot of butter, as we've had and experienced when in Paris ourselves. We've definitely went to the pâtisserie a few times. I can tell you that much.
The video of the trophy, because I think we saw them filming that, or they did it afterwards. Either way, I wish they'd told us they were doing that, because imagine if we had just walked behind the camera there, just to really mess things up.
To just mess with people?
I mean, they thought, I don't even know if they're filming it when we were there, because this is like, this was done when we were still expected to go to the studio, but you know, we all know that didn't happen, so we didn't get to be, you know, I say the sixth floor gang was not back together for that game day, unfortunately.
Sixth floor massive, bro.
Sixth floor massive, there it is. All right, yeah, they did film it after, so indeed, Fluke, if anything, would have seen your jacket somewhere in the background.
Yeah,
but
that's, I mean, I haven't decided what I'm going to wear tomorrow. Everybody's dressing smart, and my smart is locked away in the studio in Paris, mainly to give me an excuse that I have to go back there after this tournament.
I'm sure there's a window open here.
Very brazen.
Yeah.
You can swim across it.
Oh no, you have to get me back for the season. Oh, I left my blazer there.
Fair enough. All right, guys, thank you so much. We will come back tomorrow at 1500 CEST. So that's 1400 GMT, right? British summertime?
BST.
BST.
Yeah.
BST.
Why do you guys have a different time zone from literally everybody
because
else?
Because they have
in
to be
Europe?
special, like. You know,
Why do you have to be special? Why?
Portugal have the same as us.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
Irrelevant.
I just mean, you know. Okay, never mind.
Stein,
Are you ever going to play a song on that guitar, or is it just a show?
I'm looking at you from above, and I'm just saying, you know what? It's a crazy time for both you and me to be stuck here with all of these English British people.
I'm used to infiltrating the British.
Very quickly.
Yeah, as a Dutchman, I completely understand.
Very quickly.
First of all.
Very quickly. What was it that Tim said earlier where you were both like, who says that? Is that a northern thing?
Humdinger.
You said humdinger, and someone in chat legitimately went, oh, I love how crazy Ace is.
Jesus.
Fellow Continental have no clue what's going on.
Going wild with the humdingers.
That's like an old person.
It's a really polite old person phrase.
That's a real boomer one. No, even further than boomer, I would argue, but yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. I guess you're gonna go and talk about airplanes now, Gio, as what usually she's been doing it the whole time. Her favorite pastime, that's for sure. Guys, thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow, 1500 CST again for this grand final. G2 playing against BDS. Big rivalry now culminating in the grand final of the EU August 2020 major, and G2 come in to the best of 5 series with a 1 map advantage. Couldn't have called it better. I guess Stuart, Nelson, and the entire team, Rashid, I don't know who else it is right now, they're writing all the script and they are just so happy that it's finally all getting together. Let's see how it all comes down to tomorrow for that grand final. Until then, we love you.